F word, folks. George Brauchler here on the George Show, 710 KNUS for this Monday. It is the F word, and that is freaking freezing out there. I remember going to the car today, which unfortunately was not inside of a garage, and thinking to myself, good grief, this is straight. That fall, we've skipped fall and gone right into winter. Today, the Smarty Smarts at Denver 7 tell us that we're going to have a low of 20. Now, I'm not good at math, but it tells me that that's somewhere below freezing, and then a high of only 40, although the little pictogram is a giant ball of fire that says sunny skies. I hope that's true. We climbed to 46 Tuesday. By the time we get to next Saturday, and these guys are making it up, we're back up to 62 degrees, but I tried I pay for this little service through the Toyota people for this remote start for my car, and it says it was working, and so I walk outside gleefully thinking the car will be a little toasty, the windows will be defrosted. No. Now, it tells me the car is running, but of course the car is sitting there like an ice cube with a door handle on it. And it was just freaking cold, man. I don't know if we got the snow we were promised, but
didn't look at the window thing in the house to see if the
no, man, I just took it for granted. No, I just took it for granted. Like
that was your mistake.
Well, there's nothing I could do though. If it didn't work, I would still just be standing in my house using the F word instead of standing out in the cold saying the F word through breath mist.
That is true. Now, well, wait, hang on a sec here. So, I have a question then. At the palatial manse known as, Mansion Brauchler.
Schloss Brauchler. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Known as the Brauchler compound. What happened to your 16-car garage? I mean, isn't there stuff? Can't you put the car inside the little house thing?
Anybody that has a quote-unquote 3-car garage in any house built within the last 10 or 15 years knows that that's fake. That there's really not 3 cars. There's 3 cars in there if you're willing to crawl out the back of yours to get in. Yeah. The other thing is there's just enough going on that there were things in the garage over the last fill in the blank number of.
That is the problem.
That's the problem. So it's not that I don't have the space. It's that I didn't have the space yesterday. And it was, I knew it. I kind of knew it, and I was like, I wish, and I'll need to. So I've got to move some stuff to the basement because whatever I've been doing in the garage is not worth this.
Yeah, it's that the garage is always our staging area for home repairs and stuff like
that.
Yeah,
of course. Yeah, of course. Where you put the bodies while you're waiting to cut them up. Yeah, of course.
Because you want to make sure that and that's they're dissolving in the acid.
It's the snake playground.
It is. Yeah. And so it's funny, my wife always comes up and she goes, "So you think I might be able to park in the garage sometime soon?" I'm like, already. That goes up at the top of the list now.
This is Mother Nature shot across the bow, Billy, for both of us. This is the old, hey, it's coming. Bring it.
Yeah.
Exactly. So we're gonna have to get that done. I also, as you might be able to tell from the Rumbles or YouTube, went ahead and got my hairs cut.
Yes, you did.
I had let them get a little long because the last drill I was supposed to have, I took that fall break trip with the boys. So I ended up rescheduling drill. So I let my hair go a couple months, and I felt like a hippie.
You were a crazy hippie. We couldn't believe it. You had practically a mullet.
It was ridiculous.
Oh yeah.
So when the nice lady was cutting my hair, I saw all this, and I just thought, what have I done? And then I said, hey, any chance it's like blonder as you get close to the head?
Yeah.
And she says, nope, just white. And I said, screw you for saying white. You know what I mean? Like, come on. And then she says, I call it Arctic blonde. And I'm like, you know what? I am going to adopt that color. That's showing up on the next driver's license.
Absolutely.
Arctic blonde.
Yes, Arctic blonde. It makes you seem very Norwegian. And
European. It does. It does. It seems like, and if one more person says silver fox, I'm drilling a man or woman, drilling them right in the neck, just right, because that is the most ridiculous slap.
It is. I have this, it's hard for me, going and getting my hair cut because, it's obviously, yours is going gray. Mine's going gray as well, but I'm also in the process of losing quite a bit of it. And it's okay. I've come to deal with it. But it's this weird feeling when I sit there in the chair because I know that I used to have a lot of hair when I was younger, just a big head of hair, and I don't anymore. And that's okay.
Wait, what?
Yeah, I used to have a lot of hair. And
like fro?
No, it's just thick, heavy hair. But, the stuff in my body has changed. I'm getting older, and evidently now
Hold on, but
don't need it anymore.
My guess is the hair hasn't left any other part of you.
No, not really.
Just up
and
top.
In fact, we're gaining more, which is a very weird thing, and I do not understand it.
Hold on,
just no sense.
Just because we're here. I'm with Graham and Jeff yesterday, and I noticed that Graham was wearing shorts inside, and I'm like, dude, you've got ape-like legs here with these hairs. And I said, I think
yeah.
you're following the dad trend. Jeff pulls up his sweatpant leg, and I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
this is great. I pull up mine, and they're like, no, that's not your legs. It's your forearms. Like, what's going on with your? And I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
all right. I guess that's freakish.
I only had hair on the top of my head, and I had a thick head of hair, and I had nothing else. I had the body hair of a 12-year-old. I never had any bobby hair. It was ridiculous. And so it wasn't ever bad.
I think in parlance, it's called twink.
It is. Yes. I mean, it just never. The whole idea, if it was in the 70s and I was supposed to show off the chest hair, I would not be going well. It would not. I was not.
You'd
the cool
have
guy.
One of those little Italian unicorn horn things
exactly.
on just skin.
Yes. I'd have to go to like the costume shop and get the fake hair and put it in here. It's awful. But I sit in the chair getting my hair cut, and all of a sudden, all this hair starts falling off, and I'm like, where's this coming from? I don't see this stuff in the mirror.
And she was on your back at the time.
I have no idea what it is. I'm wondering if she's shaving the back or something at times, because I'm going, this is weird. This is a because I would assume that basically it feels like the amount of hair that I have left on my head, it feels like when she's done, she should just not have to go get the broom or anything. She should just be able to take her hand and just kind of go like this.
Yeah.
Pick it up and one little scoop of hand go and drop it in. That's what it feels like. But there's all this hair on the ground. I'm like, where's this hair coming from? I don't understand. And how come it's not on top of my head?
Yeah. It's an ongoing issue here, this whole hair body change thing.
Yeah,
also, I've had people whose opinions I respect let me know that the hair in and around my ears is becoming an issue. And I'm like, stop right there, because that is a sure sign. That, and when your lobes touch your shoulders, that's when you know, my God, I've crested over something where I can't stop it now. I'm melting and growing hair at the same time.
Have you done the nose hair thing where it looks like you've got a beetle hiding in your nose?
Well,
all of a sudden you're
I do, it isn't hair.
Well, all of a sudden, there are times I catch you in the mirror and it's like, ding, and this little light shines. I'm like, wait, that's sticking on my nose. Then you're looking there like, is there something? And you honestly have to look for a second, like, did something crawl up there? Because that seems like, I don't understand why now it has to come out as if it's looking for things. I mean, why do I need this coming out of the front of my face?
I don't know. I'm bittersweet on the idea of I wish I could grow a mustache. And I say that because my great-grandfather, this is how the legend goes, when he was on his deathbed, was hanging around for a long time. They trimmed his mustache, and right after they trimmed his mustache, he died. No joke.
Oh.
My grandfather, same thing, ailing, staying on for a long time.
Wow.
They trim his mustache, and then he dies. Right after that, my dad, who was rocking a mustache and beard, shaved them both. And this generation of me, I can't produce enough facial hair. I am the Cliff Clavin from the Beard Challenge on Cheers. And if you know what I'm referencing, you're a great human being. If you don't, just go back and watch the thing. I can't do it.
My brother's got a beard. I can't do it.
I don't know what's going on. I feel cheated.
Yeah. There are positives and negatives, because there are times when I'm happy I didn't have all the body hair type of thing.
But I've missed all those cool periods of time where you've got that 5 o'clock stubble, but you wear it all day, every day. I missed that whole thing.
Oh, it takes me 3 days to get a 5 o'clock shadow.
I want to have enough facial hair. I want to go Albanian with the facial hair. No, I'm not talking about the women. I want to go enough facial hair that on a weekly basis, I can just try different patterns. Like one week, I just want to do half. You know what I mean? Like one profile, I look clean shaven. The other half, I look like I'm a lumberjack,
Now, have you ever grown any facial hair? Ever?
Yes, in this way. If I don't shave for a week, there will be noticeable stubble as we're about to kiss. And that's about it.
Okay.
There's just no, otherwise, from time to time, the kids are like, oh, hey, Dad, you have some whiskers. But I'll go and feel like I've got a full growth of shrubbery around my face. I do. I'll go shave and then ask people, hey, do you notice anything different? And they're like, you changed your shirt? And I'm like, no, that's not it.
I had a goatee tail end of college until I was probably about 25. Yeah. By 25, I had a goatee. So from probably around 20 to 25.
You had a goatee?
Yeah, I had a goatee.
Dude, you can rock the facial hair. I can't do it.
Yeah, I could, but it didn't all connect on the side. There was a gap between the side of the mustache and where it came down here. Oh, but I did. It
really?
was, yeah.
That's very, I think, the evil Spock.
I think so, but it's got a nice.
From Star Trek.
The really weird part is my oldest son has a goatee now too, same age. And it does the same thing. Yeah, and so it does the exact same thing, but he's got more facial hair than I do. The other weird part is my facial hair is red.
Yeah. Wait a minute. Even now?
Yeah. It's red. It's
Yeah,
dark,
by the
dark
way,
red.
where's all your gray hair, bastard?
It is. I got a lot of it up here, but I hide it because of the hat.
Yeah,
and that's
you
mostly,
do.
you know
You're
what it
rocking
is?
the hat.
I got the fluorescent
Hold
lights
on.
above me here.
Folks ought to know
Yeah.
that it's at one point, and it's long been since
Yes,
abandoned.
it has.
We were told must wear collared shirts and
Yeah.
no hats.
Yeah,
Take
no
a look
hats.
at the Rumble and
Yeah,
YouTube now and see how that turned
Yeah,
out.
see how that works. We just slowly eroded
That did
Yeah.
not actually work
and
out.
I said I'm wearing the hat for two reasons. One, these are fluorescent lights. They spend the money over in the studio where George is for the nice soft lights that make
Yes.
you look like you are a human. Here it looks like I'm a Make-A-Wish kid that they're lucky that they get him in here before he passes away in the next month because it's just awful. And then because of the
By the way, we
angle and the
apologize
lights-
to any Make-A-Wish kids
Yes, I'm
listening.
sorry, yeah. But then the lights and stuff, it makes me look like I've lost more hair than I actually have, and I look pale. I look sickly. And so this is the best I can do. And even then, it's not for sharing. So I feel sorry for anybody who is getting up and watching this mess.
You have referenced the studio here, as you've
Yeah.
mentioned on the radio before. You and I are forever connected to the same thermostat.
Yes.
And Billy
Peter
came
broke
in
it.
and apparently Peter Boyles.
Yes.
I just
And
picture
I know
him.
it's him. I know it's him.
I just picture him with like a stapler bashing the thermostat. Because the other
Yeah.
thing you don't know is Pete Boyles hates staplers.
Yes, he does.
He beats staplers into submission and a lack of being able to work.
Yeah.
So the
I love him to death. We got to describe this though, just to explain this.
Yeah.
The stapler. I love Pete to death, but he breaks more staplers than any individual I've ever seen in my life because the way that he uses a stapler is as if it has just cursed his mother. And so what he does is he puts the stapler into the papers, and then he raises his fist at least 3 feet above the stapler, and quickly and with vengeance that only comes from someone who has been harmed as a child. He comes and just strikes down as hard as he can onto the stapler, and then is surprised when it doesn't work. That's kind of that's the system. The other thing is that he's an old school radio guy, and he works cold, and he'll tell you that. He says that phrase. He works cold, and the reason being that
what does that mean? Dead?
Yeah, well, it's an old school radio term that you had to work cold because the electronics inside the studio generate a lot of heat. So you always had to have the air
Not these.
conditioner. Yeah, no, not anymore. Because it's a different type of electronics.
Yeah.
And they're better insulated. But back in the day, they would generate heat, and so you'd have to keep the air conditioner going hard inside the studio because otherwise the stuff would overheat. So you got used to standing in a meat locker to work.
Buddy,
And that's where
break
it
out
is.
the turntables because
Yeah.
the place in here when Billy got in was like, what was it like?
It was 63 degrees
63.
when I arrived.
It's now climbed to 65. I think largely off of our respirations.
Yes. And the thing is normally I come in here and I get in here before you do, and I change the thermostat. So it is at least palatable by the time you arrive, because when I walk in, it is freezing because not only has it been running, but nobody's been in here. So there's been no body heat added for at least 15 hours. So it is cold. And I come in here and I adjust the thermostat. Today, there was a red little light on the thermostat that was not good. And so I pushed some other buttons. The red light went away. I adjusted some temperatures, and normally I can hear it kick on. Today, nothing. So I don't know what happened over the weekend.
I don't know either, but Pete was in here.
Yeah.
I don't know what our good friend, the dentist, Dr. Dunn, does with this stuff, but
I don't think he knows it exists. I love him. He's a great guy. but
It's
I'm not sure.
super cold
It's
in here,
so
just
cold.
for people to appreciate this. We've got some texters, 4.1 degrees at my house in Conifer.
Woo.
Someone texted in, and I get this. How was the Marine Corps Marathon? It did not happen
how
for
was
me, and I had mentioned that on Friday.
But you were there in spirit.
Yeah, listen, I'm as frustrated as anybody else, but at some point
you're
when the unexpected family health thing pops up, there's decisions you make that are either, hey, I'm going to be a father, or I'm going to complete this thing. I'm pretty disappointed in this way. We spent all of these frigging months
Totally lying.
building up to this event.
Yeah.
Now what? Right? Like what? I want to get this done. I cannot go into the dirt having not run a marathon, or at least tried to. That would have been the ideal one.
We could create the KNUS Georgiathon, and we could have a marathon this coming weekend.
Yeah. So here's what I have planned, and this was planned.
See, now there's another excuse. I see how this is.
Hold on.
You and your excuses.
This was planned a long time ago.
Sure.
There is a Disney series of races
yes, we talked about this.
Yeah, that's right. So in February, and this was going to be sort of the, now that I'm in better shape, I can pull this thing off.
Yeah.
So in February, I'm taking the boys out, at least the way things are scheduled now. I'm going to take the boys out to the old Florida. And
you're into the race. All of you get into the race?
no,
Come on.
listen, if I could have signed up Jeff and Graham and I for the 5K, I
Yeah.
would do it. But that thing sold out in a millisecond.
Ugh.
The only race left that I could do was the half marathon, the 13.1 mile, or the 13.1.
That's only half. What do you think?
That's it. But
Stop being
the
a
best
wuss.
part is it's the Disney princess themed half
Yeah.
marathon.
Oh my God.
So they've
Okay.
already shown what the medals are going to be
Yeah.
for each of these things. And I'm like, you know what? I'm
You
wearing
should.
this thing back to the studio.
You
I mean,
should.
presuming I'm still employed.
Well, what we should do is we should train. You should do this. And we should allow the audience to vote on which princess you are.
As I run.
Yes. They should be
Listen,
allowed to
I
choose
could
the
rock,
content,
and
the
people,
costume.
Billy's right. People do dress up
Yes,
and run this
I have
as a
seen
princess.
this. Yes, it's wonderful.
It's not as cool, in my opinion, as the full-on Disney marathon, which sold out,
Yeah.
I swear to you, in minutes. I couldn't get in. That is one that we saw last year. I was out there teaching for, I can't remember if it was the military or some other law enforcement agency, but I brought the boys again, and we hit the parks. We hit Disney. And there were people on the day of the marathon, they would run. They'd bail out of the run, go to the rock and roll, roller coaster. They'd be allowed to cut right to the front of the line.
Oh, yeah.
They'd go. And so I was like, wait a minute, run, ride. This is my kind of marathon, right?
Exactly.
This was built for me.
Yeah.
And I couldn't get in. So now I don't know what to do with the princess one.
I mean, again, I think you're just, this is a calling. I think it's kind of a message. That
Alexa
should.
said, and maybe there's a dovetail between the facial hair and the Disney princess thing. It
go.
says castor oil will help grow hair on the face. It also helps immensely with wrinkles. Put it on every night about an hour before going to sleep. Put a towel on your pillows. Now, again, I trust Alexa, so this could be one of those things like, pull my finger. Just see what happens. You know what I mean? Like, this could be one of those things like, here, taste this. It's delicious. What was that? It was bird guano. Like, I could fall for that. So, Alexa, I may end up putting, here's another one. Be sure castor oil is cold pressed and hexane free, whatever the hell that is.
Yeah, no hexes.
No
hexes.
I don't even know what's going on anymore.
This is not good.
We've turned this into a different kind of show, which I love. We never know what direction it's going to take.
You should either run as a princess or as a prince. You could be there's so
many. No, I'll run as a prince. Listen, I am just confident enough in my own sexuality that I don't care. I'm happy to run as a princess.
I think you should register, and I think that
it might be a political career ender, although I may have achieved that already with the show. We don't know.
You are welcome, sir.
Yeah,
that's all my fault.
Hell, I might as well dress up like a Disney princess for the radio show.
Might as well.
I mean, nobody's going to notice any difference.
Yeah, if it is, we have to coordinate because I'll do it too.
We were going to do a little bit here on something that took place over the weekend that isn't all that positive, but I did want to acknowledge that. The Buffs lost. Just real quick on that. They played UCLA hard, but for the fact that it turns out they don't have any offensive or defensive linemen. Other than that fact, and Shedeur Sanders spends as much time on his back as up on his feet, and the ridiculous call to eject Shiloh.
That was interesting. I did see that. See, I
what
see the whole
in
game,
the world?
But I saw that and went.
That hit was straight up textbook. That's exactly. And you know who else says that? Richard Sherman and Rob Gronkowski on social media were like, that is exactly the hit you want. In fact, Gronkowski on social media says if he comes in lower than that, that's a season-ending injury there.
Yeah. And I saw 3 of those hits in the Broncos-Chiefs game, almost identical.
But not from Kareem Jackson.
No, not from Kareem Jackson. But they were almost identical. Same thing. And I looked at that and went, you've got to be kidding me.
Yeah, craziness. Nonetheless, they lost. But the Broncos.
What the hell happened there?
What? I don't.
No idea.
What?
Yeah,
I mean, here I am. I am weeks ago saying it's time to get rid of Vance Joseph because we got that 70 points put on us.
Yeah.
That's a defense that didn't even show up with their pads and helmets. And then this game, and again, there were some mistakes made, and I know Mahomes was a little under the weather, but Mahomes under the weather just makes him the best quarterback in the NFL as opposed to a Superman. I don't know, man. These guys seem like they showed up to play ball.
It was nice because you caught, in my opinion, you caught KC on an off day. You caught them when they were down, and you need to be able to catch them on those off days. The other thing that I was texting with my brother a little bit is how important it is to never, ever, 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 ever bet on a division game. He does these things where
Did he bet on this one?
No, not at all.
Yeah.
But we talk about this all the time, and he's had this rule for years. He is in several pools. He does fantasy football, but he's also in some pools like eliminator pools, where you are allowed to pick the team that is going to lose, but you can only pick that team once a season. So you have to go through the entire season, and you pick each time.
But you get eliminated each of these weeks.
Exactly, yeah. So if you pick it wrong, you're eliminated. And so that's one of the games. And he's like, one of the rules is never select a division game. It does not matter. It does not matter if it is the Kansas City Chiefs coming into Denver. It is a division game. Things are wonky. And so that's what the first thing he does is he goes through the list and he marks off all the division games. He goes, nope, that's not one of them. And then he goes and picks from there. Never bet on a division game.
It was a great monkey to get off our back. I don't know how it changes the rest of the season. I mean, we'll have to see how we turn up next week, and if maybe we're believers now and we make some historic run, or do we just go back to being the Broncos of 2023? I don't know the answer.
The tough part that you have is, and my son and I do this with soccer all the time, is when you're trying to balance talent. And what I was looking at yesterday is, so tell me, if you are on the Chiefs and you have the Broncos and you are allowed to select picks from the Broncos offense, who are you taking, if anybody? Maybe our running backs. Maybe there isn't a single player on that offense that you would supplant and bring in as a Chief starter. And much of that case is the same on the defense. And that's difficult for us to handle as a Broncos fan, because if you realize it, things like our sexy players, our wide receivers, they are third or fourth string on most top-level teams in the NFL minimum. Because that's hard.
Jerry Jeudy has such potential. So does Courtland Sutton. We keep waiting for Courtland
but
to
they're
have
not a one
that,
or two.
No,
not in this league.
Not right now.
Not right now. No.
That sucks. But you've culled together some a little bit of sound.
Yeah,
we
this
had
was sad.
You guys already probably know the news, but if you're of a certain age range, this show helped in many ways define at least some portion of pop culture for at least a decade. But we lost someone that my guess is you know who this voice is.
Okay, I'm going to go to the bathroom. Will you watch my phone?
Why don't you just take it with you?
Hey, we haven't been on a second date. She needs to hear me pee.
Why don't you just call her?
I can't call her. I left the message. I have some pride.
Do you?
No. If you're not Mary Angela, then who is?
I am.
Oh, it's so bad. No, Joey! No, Joey! No, Joey! Joey! What's going on? You're it. Now run and hide.
It's no big deal. Chandler was just kissing me because he thought I was Mary Angela.
What? How could you do that? How could you think she was Mary Angela?
I wasn't sure which one Mary Angela was. Look, I'm sorry.
And they all look the same.
I was really drunk, and you guys all look really similar.
I say punch him, Joey.
Yeah.
Punch him.
No, you know what? We should all calm down because, your brother's not going to punch me. Yeah?
Well, that is usually what I would do, but I just never thought you'd be on the receiving end of it. How could you do this?
Yeah.
Hi, Tushy.
Remember this? Julia Roberts steals his pants.
Oh, no. Can't help you. I'm not wearing any.
How can you not be wearing any underwear?
Oh, I'm getting heat from the guy in the hot pink car.
All right, look,
Going
Ross,
commando.
I'll give you $50 for your underpants. Hey.
Yeah, I got a few others. We'll let that go. Yeah.
Oh, Chandler Bing.
Oh, it's sad.
Gone. The coroner's report came out and said that there's no indication of foul play for Matthew Perry. I still have just read enough where I wonder if anyone's followed at all, even remotely, what's gone on with him after all the success of the 90s and the early 2000s. Had some struggles, had some demons.
Yeah. He actually famously blew his colon out because of all the opioids. Had to have emergency surgery. He had 14 different surgeries through his abdomen because of all the
I did not know that.
Yeah, all the pills that he'd taken. It had ravaged his internal digestive system that much that he'd taken 14 surgeries just so he's not pooping in a bag.
In that Friends reunion they had, and I think it was on Netflix or something. But I watched that. He seems so different. He seems so much older and more remote and less engaged, and something going on with his teeth. Like maybe he'd had, I don't know, but I really felt for the guy. But my understanding from at least what I've heard and read is that he tells his housekeeper or whoever,
Yeah.
like, hey, go ahead and take off and go grab me a Snickers or something. And that's when he slips into the tub. And you just don't know. I don't know.
No.
And I'm not
And-
sure that I need to know,
No,
but
it's probably in all likelihood it's probably heart attack and then drowning.
I just,
That's probably it. No,
unfortunate.
I
man.
know. Now, okay, now what? Chandler's mom, Nora. What was her? Because I'm a trivia guy. What was her job? What did Chandler's? Because they got divorced. We'll talk about why and when. But Chandler's mom did what?
Nora was a proctologist,
No, romance novelist.
romance novel, which
Yeah.
is similar.
Yep. Now, Chandler hates one specific holiday because it's the holiday in which his parents announced they were getting divorced. What holiday is that?
It's Thanksgiving.
Yes, it is. It's Thanksgiving. Nicely done. Now, what is Chandler's dad undergoes a transition and becomes a cross-dressing performer in Las Vegas. What is his name when he takes the stage? We've done this before. I'm hoping he
dang
brings
it.
back.
No, I mean, you would count on me to not have the Biden
Yeah.
memory, but I'm all Bidened up.
Helena Handbasket. Now, this is the best one. What's the show? What's the show's name? And it's in Vegas. Remember? This is a great one. This is so
No, I
good.
don't.
Viva Las Vegas. I love that. I love that. Now, Chandler has a physical abnormality. What is it? And
He
what
has
is
a
called?
third nipple
Yep.
called a nubbin.
Yes, it's nubbin, and he has it removed.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's
Okay.
right.
Now this is in their game.
You should do this for trivia night, man.
I
But
have
now
done
you're
it.
blowing it. Huh?
I have done it. I've done. Friends
Oh,
trivia
okay. So
before.
this is fresh.
Yeah,
this is in the
stuff.
frontal
This is stuff
lobe
that I know.
right
Yeah,
here.
this is stuff that I know. So Chandler, they have a game where they're switching the apartments.
Yeah.
And they have an argument over what Chandler's job is. Rachel spits something out. What does she say his job is? And then what's Chandler's real job?
What's Chandler in real life? What's his job?
Yeah, well, in the sitcom, he has the actual title. What is it? And
I
then
don't know. I don't remember.
He is an IT procurement manager. But what does Rachel say he is?
I don't know.
A transponster. She goes, it's a transponster.
I'm gonna have to binge watch these shows again.
Oh, yeah.
Amanda had watched them. I
Yeah.
think when she was in high school and kind of fell in love with the show
they're
and
great.
stuff like that. I mean,
What's-
you're talking
What's Chandler's middle name? This is a great one.
something exotic.
Yes, it is.
Susan.
Muriel.
Mir-
Muriel. Now, this is my favorite one is this. What is now they get a TV guide that comes to Chandler's house for
Yeah.
Chandler and Joey. TV guide every day back when that was a thing.
Yeah.
Every week. It is coming to the wrong name. What is the wrong name that the TV guide is delivered under every week to Chandler and
Tim,
Joey?
you have an incredible grasp of the trivia. I don't know.
Yeah. Miss Chenandler Bong. I know, but I love this. In our house, we have a Cards Against Humanity Friends version. So this is something that we do all the time.
Miss Chenandler
Yes,
Bong.
yes, Miss Chenandler Bong. And it's funny because
That
if you
could
go
have
back
been
to
the
that,
stage name
yeah.
for the cross-dresser
if
too.
you go back to the bit, they say it's Chenandler Bong, and he goes, "That's Miss Chenandler Bong." So yeah, it's sad. The thing for me is that is a seminal moment in society and pop culture, and we don't have those anymore. We don't have that shared experience on the same
No, we
level.
don't. Yeah.
That used to be, that was part of must-see TV.
It was.
And unless you have things that are singular, like Stranger Things or Squid Game, where they pop up, we don't have these
Tiger
cultural.
King.
Yes, we don't have these cultural moments anymore, and it's sad that we don't have this kind of a shared experience. And the other part that's difficult is going to be now when you see those reruns. There used to be, for me at least, an encapsulation of joy and memories.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
now it's colored a little bit. It's
Yeah.
because it's a little bit sad because you know that he's gone. It's
This was
Yeah,
this
this
was
is a
back
hard
too,
one.
where cutting edge technology was
Yeah.
a really cool VHS recorder. Like you could
Yes.
record stuff on the old VCR, and we would do that.
and
Like
you
if
could
you
set
couldn't
it for
see
days in advance.
set it for days in advance,
We were living in the future.
and being able to fast forward through commercials was
Oh,
a different
yeah,
process, right?
yeah.
And
And you always had that one friend that was good at it, and that other friend that would go too far, and you're like, you're back
Yeah,
to the show,
yeah, yeah,
rewind,
yeah,
and then they'd
yeah, yeah.
rewind too far.
yeah, that's right.
But you had one guy that knew the magic touch. Yeah.
Not just the magic touch, but had seen enough commercials that he could like
Yes,
gauge
he
the
knew.
amount of time and where they were in that commercial.
Yeah.
Be like, that's it, bam, and then
Yep,
you pop
bang.
out.
Yeah.
But you're right,
He was
man.
a
There's
hero.
no more
Yeah.
shared experience like that.
No, it sucks.
It is
Yeah.
it's too bad because that show, I mean, going back to must-see TV, NBC had been crushing it forever. Now
Yeah.
I don't know where they are in the ratings,
No
but
idea.
that was even starting back with the Cosby Show.
Yep. Yeah.
And
And it rolled through. You rolled through.
Family Ties.
You roll through Cheers. You roll through.
Oh my
Night
God,
Court, you roll
Cheers,
through-
Night Court.
Yeah. I mean, so many of
And
them.
and I think Bull just died, by the way, too.
Yeah,
Speaking of
yeah, he
Night
did.
Court,
Yep.
Richard Mull just
Richard Mull did,
passed
yeah.
away. Guy was like 9 feet tall or
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah.
Um,
And
yeah,
we don't have those. And it's weird because our cultural experience now are either sports or horrible news. And that's our
you know what?
touchstones anymore.
That's a good
And it's
observation,
really bad.
man.
It's,
Yeah, that's too
sucks.
bad because the
Yeah.
rest of the stuff, even movies that you see,
Oh, yeah.
it just
Not
feels
anymore.
different than it
Yeah.
was in the past. I did watch Five Nights
You
at
want to see
Freddy's.
that?
No, I did not go see it. I couldn't pay money for that, man. And, but
my daughters want to go, but at the
it's
moment
streaming for free on Peacock.
it is
100%. They
What?
co-released it in studios, and despite the fact that they released it streaming at the same time, thing grossed like 70-80 million bucks,
What?
and it's open. Yeah, worldwide, it's already up over $100 million. It's done better than like Halloween Ends in its
Jeez.
entire run. I mean, it's done for this thing. So Jeff was excited to go
Okay.
see it, but
Yeah.
then Jeff gets influenced a little bit by the online reviews and then by his older
Yeah,
brother
some of
who
those too.
says, nah, I'm not that interested. So Graham and I watched it last night.
What you think? 'Cause I've read some reviews, so I'm
Candidly, it
curious.
was a function of how long the weekend had been on a lot of levels, but I fell asleep constantly. And the good
Really?
news was, because we were watching it on Peacock, Graham would just pause it and wait for Dad to, and then we'd come back and watch it. And he even told me, he's like, "Hey, we got to go back 10 minutes, Dad, because there's some important plot point here." And I'm like, oh my God, I feel like I'm in a home.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like
exactly.
he's dabbing the
Yeah,
drool off
he
of
is.
Dad's face. And I'm like, "Ugh."
He's like, pay attention. Here's the good parts.
It
Yeah.
was okay. I mean, it
Yeah.
wasn't horrible, but it was okay. The
'cause
problem is I don't
yeah.
have the game background to really
Oh, that was
appreciate
the
the
next
tie-in.
question.
Yeah, I don't
is,
have it.
Did you play the game? Oh, see, I played the
Yeah.
game. And
No, the
game
boys all did, but
the game is simple but clever in its execution. I appreciate how they lean into it, but it is incredibly simplistic. But again, but it achieves it, and it is playable, and it does create a level of anxiety and scratch and itch that it makes it you want to go back and play it again and again. It's executed well. The thing that worries me is that I've been reading on the reviews that they spend all this time trying to create a backstory for the scariness.
yeah, they did.
And for me, it's like, no. At least 50 to 65% of this should be the scariness inside, because that's what sold the game.
Yeah.
Is this should be an adventure and a trap, and bad things should be happening inside of this, rip off Chuck E. Cheese. That's basically what it should be. And I keep reading that they spent all this time creating a story.
Tons of backstory.
And I'm like,
tons of
I'm
backstory.
like, I don't care. I could
Yeah.
accomplish. I bet you and I could write, in my opinion, a better script because we could accomplish the backstory in a 90-second flashback. That's it. It's all we need, and then move forward. That's it. Who cares? I don't know. I read that and was like, I'm not
Here's a
excited.
text.
Yeah.
I guess I didn't get the memo on Must See TV. I never watched or experienced it. I just got to wonder,
Where were
during
you?
that period of time, were you in a North Korean re-education
Yeah.
camp?
Where were you?
And then our good friend Fran from Greenwood
Yes.
Village.
Yeah.
Friend sucked. Typical white New York City losers. That awful theme song triggers me to this day. I can
That's
see there's
interesting.
some real
Yeah.
common ground
I'm
here.
curious because there are things that I appreciate the Friends. I thought the Friends writing was clever. I mean, against dated. Yes, it was unrealistic. But I thought, that for a sitcom of the day, it was written fairly clever.
Yeah,
It's-
but remember too, that is when so much of things were written about like Seinfeld was out of, I mean, you've got two of these epic shows that all come out of New York City because the plot lines are endless.
Yes, and people that live in New York City thinks there's only one city in America that matters, and that is New York City.
That's true.
I've met those people. They're friends of mine, and they are shocked to hear that there are other cities elsewhere in the
and
nation.
that people want to live in them.
Yes.
Yeah. The other person that's figuring out that really everybody loves New York City is Mayor Adams.
Oh,
who is,
He's
just
definitely part of
disappointed
that.
so many people from not here
Yeah.
are relocating there. We've gone over our time limit a lot for this. I've got to get to the Thorpe Report and you choose the news. You know how it goes. We cut away for a break. We come back. We get made depressed. Cut away, come back, and get made happy. It's George Brauchler on the George Show, 710 KNUS. It's the princess right back here on 710 KNUS, turning it over to the prince of all the news that's worth talking about for the Thorpe Report. Billy?
Hey, thank you very much. And me not in my purple. I feel a little weird. That'd be a Minnesota Vikings thing. We're Broncos rocking it today. Yeah, sunshine is returning. Our cold air mass is still going to be in place along our state. Greater metro area see highs only in the 30s today. As the week goes, though, going to get a little windy and gradually warmer temperatures. By tomorrow, 44, 54 by Wednesday. And they say it's 62 by Thursday, but that is so many days away, we don't know what's really going to happen. This is a weird one. After hours on the run, an armed suspect who had stolen multiple cars and led law enforcement on a miles-long pursuit was finally arrested in Boulder yesterday. They were notified of stolen car pursuit around 8:30 a.m., I-25 and Highway 119. During the stop, the CSP said a man named Anthony McGregor got out of his car and was able to steal an unmarked CSP cruiser.
Oh, good Lord.
Yeah, during a traffic stop, dude gets out of the car and is able to steal a cruiser. Very interesting. Suspect then runs away as fast as he can in the car. He almost hits several cars. He tries to get away. They then stopped him at the intersection of Main Street and Highway 66. At that point, he gets out of the car, has a handgun that he points at his head. It's an intense moment. Things are going awry, and all of a sudden, he carjacks a Chevy Cruze. So he does that, and it's not long until he carjacks a fourth car and takes off near
This
Ward.
one,
Yeah,
a Ted Cruz.
exactly. Officers arrest him about 6 hours after the chase begins, taken into custody around 2:15 in the afternoon. A teen that's accused of shooting and injuring 5 people outside of a bar in Lodo back in September is in Colorado and will appear in court later this week. Prosecutors say that the suspect is currently charged as a juvenile. 28 counts, including 7 counts of attempted murder, 15 counts of assault. Kiana Roseberg is 17, arrested in California. Garfield County Sheriff's Office investigating death of a man whose body was discovered inside Glenwood Caverns Adventure Park on Saturday.
Uh-oh.
Body was discovered prior to the opening of the park and not related to any of the rides. So basically, they're just going to be closed for a little bit. Also, we have
for what purpose? Just cleaning up the blood?
Yeah, cleaning up the blood and doing investigations because you don't
boy.
want people walking around trampling all over any evidence if there is
Just the chalk outline on the
Yeah.
way to the
Yeah,
Ferris
it's
wheel,
awkward.
huh?
Yeah,
Okay.
because the thing is, then parents want their kids to lay down in it and take pictures.
Oh, Jesus.
Sorry, I'm sorry.
That's dads.
Yeah, that is.
That's dads.
Hundreds of flights have been delayed, dozens canceled at Denver International Airport due to the winter storm that we are having. 898 flights delayed, 27 canceled, which is really, really
See,
weird.
that could have been me if
It
I
could
was
have been.
trying to fly back yesterday.
It could have been crazy.
Silver lining.
Yeah, super ridiculous. And the weird thing that I keep running is I remember back when we were going to build this airport, and I could have sworn that there were a lot of people involved, a lot of really smart, rich people
right.
saying something about an
those things are-
all-weather airport.
Yeah. Oh, yeah,
I
it
could have
is.
sworn they said that.
The
but
airport's
now-
all weather. The ability to use it is not.
Oh, so we just
Yeah.
learned
So the airport
oh.
can survive all sorts of things. The planes
Oh.
can't.
Oh, I'm glad you. Okay, that
Yeah.
makes sense now. Okay. Now I'm glad you. Thank you very much. So we learned something every day. The early winter storm that blanketed Colorado is also helping out Arapahoe Ski Basin. Arapahoe Basin opened yesterday. Started at 8:30 in the morning. Skiers started showing up hours beforehand, and also CU lost, but the Broncos won. That's all I got for news.
Boom. That's great.
Yeah.
Look, let's cut away as quickly as we can. I want to give you as much time for the good stuff. Let's start Monday on an upswing with a little bit of laughter, just a couple tears. George Brauchler, 710 KNUS. George Brauchler back with you here, 710 KNUS. No time to lose. It's time for You Choose Information with Billy Thorpe.
Nicely done. Yes, it is that time every morning where we play everybody's fake radio news game. You make a choice about the information. That doesn't work as well. It's time for You Choose the News. Yes, everyone's favorite radio news game where I have scoured the interwebs for this entire weekend to find some really stupid stories to bring them to you with ridiculous headlines to play this fake radio news game because, well, the people in charge have no idea we are doing this. So it's a little bit of a secret. We'd appreciate it if you don't tell them. Alrighty, sir. Here are your headlines this morning. Headline number 1. Israel enlists bikini bottom cartoon character to fight Hamas. Headline number 2. Museum of stuff you're not supposed to see. Headline number 3. I told you to stop jumping. And headline number 4. Tesla owner makes retro upgrade. Alrighty, your choices
These are
again.
all good. I'm going to go with
Yes.
the bikini bottoms.
Alrighty, Israeli enlists a bikini bottom cartoon character to fight Hamas. Yes, Israel is now reporting they are using SpongeBob to attack Hamas and... Wait a minute, hang on.
What?
Wait, sorry, I read that incorrectly. It is not SpongeBob, it is Sponge Bombs. Very different. What actually happens is while they're going through while they're going through the tunnels, Israel Defense Force are now using sponge bombs. What they do is while they're in the tunnels, they let off this bomb, and you've seen that insulation that comes in the spray can.
Oh,
that
yeah.
and then hardens and becomes
yeah.
This is kind of like the Flex Steel or the industrial version. And basically what it does is they let it go in the tunnel. It expands, covers up the entire tunnel, and hardens to the degree of concrete, preventing anybody from using the tunnel
genius,
again.
Man.
Yes, but it isn't SpongeBob. It's Sponge Bombs. Sorry.
Oh, I was so looking forward to the bikini
I was a little confused
part.
at first.
Yeah.
Me too. It's because it's riding up a little bit here.
Oh, hello.
Yeah. Alrighty, sir. So Museum of Stuff You're Not Supposed to
Yes,
See.
that one. Museum of stuff you're not. That's
The
it.
Museum of Stuff You're Not Supposed to See. This is a new museum that has just opened up this past Friday in Barcelona. It is private, and it is the Museum of Forbidden Art. These are works by Francisco de Gea, our Andy Warhol, Chinese activists, other people. We've got, there are some there. There are a whole bunch of other. What the issue is that these are exhibits that have been banned or pulled from other museums around the world over the past decades, and now they're being put on display here. So they don't do anything that is overly disgusting or offensive, but things that have been barred. Like one of the things they have is a Ronald McDonald on a crucifix, and that was pulled from a museum.
What?
Yeah, museum in Israel. So they have some things like that. So there are other ones. They have a highlight, French Algerian artist featured 30 Muslim prayer mats, but each one of them has sequined stilettos. And that followed, he did that in France, and he got death threats. So
of course he did.
A bunch of stuff like that. So, yeah, you can now go see the stuff you're not supposed to see.
Oh,
yeah,
interesting.
Museum of Forbidden Art. Would you go?
I don't know, man. Rubbernecking, sort of, I want to see it. But on the other hand, if some government agency has determined I shouldn't see it, I'm going to trust them.
Yeah, exactly. I'm going to just go in there and see it anyway. Alrighty, so last one. I told you to stop jumping, or Tesla owner makes retro upgrade.
Jumping.
Yes, nicely done. Now, this is a callback to a recent trip that you might have had over, a couple of weeks ago. Yeah, you were abroad, and you guys were on.
Well,
that
I was still
amazing,
a guy, but I was overseas.
You were on that amazing bridge that was glass. And
Oh
you
yeah. The Tower Bridge.
Exactly. Well, oddly enough, what began as a dream holiday for a group of tourists in Indonesia ended in tragedy when the glass bridge they were on gave way.
Oh,
one of them died. 3 others are injured. A group of 11 tourists were at the popular tourist attraction. It's a glass bridge, and it seemed to be supported by 2 colossal golden hands. You've seen it in pictures. It broke and shattered, and several of the tourists fell through.
Holy
being
crap!
Injured. So remember that.
I
when the kids are jumping
I
up
presume
and
it
down.
was teens jumping up and down that caused that to happen.
It has to be. So yeah, that's it. So be careful. So
and
I'm
in
just saying.
typical teen fashion, they left unscathed.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Some other older couple who had lived their lives exactly as they should have plummeted to their death.
Yeah. And as the way it should be. All righty, that is the end of You Choose the News. Today, you can get a discount on your very own George Brauchler home acupuncture kit. Yes, you get a map of your own body energy pathways. You are sent a dozen needles, most of them clean, along with incense, an MP3 of music and harps and things by Cusco and stuff he's playing Art Bell. Also, a first aid kit because just in case you puncture a lung or something, and also a quick way to dial 911. But again, you can give yourself home acupuncture if you try hard enough with George Brauchler's home acupuncture kit. Operators are standing by. Back to you, sir.
Just a little prick. That's all. That's all you'll ever. Yeah, that does it for this first hour of the show, and in many ways, the show itself. We don't know if we're going to come back at 7, but if we do, we're going to be joined by the talented Sherrie Peif. She just gets it done when it comes to investigative journalism, the stuff that the mainstream media skips over. We're going to get that next. And then maybe Dave Williams at 8. Stick around and find out. George Brauchler, 710 KNUS.
Say goodbye to clutter and hello to convenience when you experience organization transformation in your home. Roll 'em Out Shelves, your clutter transformation experts, create affordable Colorado-crafted organized storage solutions. These custom options will maximize and organize your kitchen and bath storage as Roll 'em Out Shelves carefully designs and builds roll-out drawers to fit your space perfectly to clear the clutter. Contact owners Joyce and Brent at Roll 'em Out Shelves to schedule your free in-home estimate today.
George Brauchler back with you here, 710 KNUS. Man, when Billy says we're in weather, that's not a reference to what's going on outside. That is a reference to the guy speaking on the microphone here instead of me. And it turns out that means it's time to start the second of 4 hours here on the George Show on 710 KNUS. Still learning the ropes. It's only been 18 plus months, actually 18-ish months. I can't remember when Pete tapped out. Alexa does. Maybe it's more than that, but just figuring it out here. Here's one of the things I figured out, though. There are superstars out there who are doing the work that we don't get to see as much as we should because it's not part of that legacy mainstream media. We're going to bring up one of those folks right now. Her name is Sherrie Peif. You've heard of her. She is from Complete Colorado. Page 2, Independence Institute type stuff, and she joins us on a regular basis. Sherrie, how are you?
I'm good. How are you this morning, George? Oh, geez,
Cold.
superstar. Gee, thank you.
Cold.
You give me way more credit than I'm worth.
No. The title is a substitute for pay. So congratulations.
Okay.
It's freaking cold. I don't know what it's like in Weld County, but where we are, it is ridiculous. Inside the studio, which also has hanging meat in it to refrigerate it for a restaurant nearby, it is really cold. How about up there?
It's cold up here. We didn't get. I mean, we got snow. Don't kid yourself. I think we probably got 4 inches, but we didn't get anything near what you guys got down there. But we did get the cold. I mean, it's cold.
Yeah. So tell me, as we're now in the middle of, or actually we're past the middle of the voting period, right? Like, it's next Tuesday. If you don't have your ballot in, there's going to be a day pretty quick here. I think it might be Friday where they say don't mail it anymore because we can't count on it getting there on time. How much of this has dominated your radar in terms of what you're doing?
The election?
All the election stuff. Yeah.
A lot. We've focused on a bunch of what we've done over the last 2, 3 months is focus on hyper local stuff. The communities that, despite the fact that there's property taxes out of control across Colorado, still want more money, There's communities like Longmont who have 3 property tax hikes on the ballot. So we have focused.
What?
Yes, Longmont has 3 separate property tax asks on their ballot.
For what? And by the way, is it a failure to read the room or something? I mean, that feels pretty tone deaf.
I think it really is, because it's not even for things like, oh my goodness, we're losing police officers. We need more, we need more police. It's for a rec. One of them is for a big fancy multi-million-dollar rec center. One of them is for a big fancy multi-million-dollar cooperation with the YMCA for a different rec center. I mean, it's not even for stuff that people could look at and go, yeah, we really need this right now when our property tax valuations went up 40%. It's for the niceties in life. It's not even for need.
This feels like the wrong time for that. But nonetheless, with HH on the ballot, it also, I hope that the trend here, because of the reporting and everything else, is that people begin to just take a harder look at these and decide what we need versus what we want and make decisions that way. But I don't know. I don't know what to think. Tell me more about what's going on at the hyper local level here with the tax increases. Who else is going down the road of taxes ain't high enough yet?
Oh, there's quite a few. I think Jefferson County has some on the ballot. I know Fort Collins has a couple on the ballot. There's some up in Golden has some stuff on the ballot, and they're all across the state. They're just not paying attention to what is happening within the state of Colorado, and I guess they think that it's still okay to move forward with this, because it's not just limited to 1 or 2 communities. They are all across the state.
It says here that Fort Collins, this is per your article, have both a property and a sales tax hike on the ballot.
Yeah, and that's what's so funny. You're right, and that seems to be the going trend as well, because that's what's so funny about Longmont's 3 property tax increases as well, is because not only all 3 initiatives are tied to a property tax increase, but all 3 initiatives are also tied to a sales tax increase. So that's the going trend, is not only do we want a property tax increase, but we also want a sales tax increase. And it's amazing to me. There is never going to be enough money in the world for some folks. There's just not enough money. I mean,
it looks like Golden too, according to this is a great article here, and you can find it on Complete Colorado page 2. It looks like Golden's also is a debrucing measure at the same time.
Yeah, and again, another trend. You know, we see a lot where all of a sudden communities will come back to you and say, you know, like with HH, actually, you know, HH is one of those where, hey, we collected more than we thought we were going to collect, or excuse me, II, not HH. Proposition II is one of those where they go, hey, you know, we collected more money than we planned to collect, so can we keep it? And in the process, can we just keep it from here on out? You see that a lot happening. But now what you're also seeing happening is just hitting you with it from the very beginning. We're not going to come back to you in a few years and ask you to keep it. We're going to say, because of the table rules for the first year, we think we're going to collect about $12 million. But hey, can we just go ahead and, if we make more than that, can we keep it from the beginning? These measures are getting more and more brazen. We want your money. We want your property taxes. We want your sales taxes. And we don't ever want to give those back. And you'll hear attorneys, I think it was the Longmont attorney, I can't remember correctly, but one of the counsels that I watched where he said, the reason we've done this is so that we don't have to come back in a couple of years and give the money back. I mean, they just say that. They just say that out loud. We don't want to have to give the money back.
There have been a lot of counties and municipalities that have debruced in the past. Some, like Arapahoe County, still hasn't figured out a way to get there, which is interesting because it's such a blue county. But the language here that you quote in the article is this particular measure would allow Golden to, quote, collect, retain, and spend the proceeds of the revenue without limitation. Yeah, I mean, this is pretty much saying, hey, listen, if we happen to collect more than we would be entitled to under the Constitution, just go ahead and pre-authorize us to do whatever the hell we want with it. That's a tall order these days.
And that's exactly what it is. It's, hey, we think it's going to cost us we think it's going to cost us $22 million to build this rec center. But if something and that's what we think we'll collect that $22 million over the first 3 years. But if something happens and we accidentally collect 25, just go ahead and let us keep it. We'll figure out how to spend it later. And it's in one of the ballot measures, I can't remember which one it is. I think it may be Fort Collins. One of them goes so far as to say that, I think it is Fort Collins, goes so far as to say that, okay, well, this money is going to be used for this purpose, but we may not use it right away for this purpose. Just trust us in the fact that eventually we will use it for this purpose. And in 10 years, we'll make sure that we let you know we used it for this purpose. And it was Fort Collins, because the guy that I quote in there is running for Fort Collins City Council. And he basically said the only reason these are on the ballot is because Fort Collins has a balanced budget in their city charter, and they cannot balance the budget. They have a shortfall in money. And so these increases will help them correct that shortfall, but they won't be able to spend it on where they're telling the taxpayers they're going to spend it, because they have to use it for the shortfall. So the ballot initiative even says to the taxpayers, well, hey, we're going to use it for purpose A, but we don't know if we're going to use it for purpose A right away. Just trust us that we will eventually. And in 10 years, we'll make sure we let you know if we used it for purpose A.
This is also part of the fraud of HH2, which the proponents, in addition to coming out and saying this isn't going to impact your Tabor refunds and it's not a tax increase, they come out and say, well, it's money that absolutely must positively go to education. It has to. And what they never explain is every dollar they end up spending that way, that just frees them up to take the money they would have spent otherwise in the budget and spend it on DEI training for animal control officers or something like that.
Exactly. And that's just what it is. It's a shifting of money in the pot, you know, unless you say, like, Greeley has a sales tax that is for roads, and it's only for roads. And so any money that is collected in the roads with that tax has to go to roads. And so, yes, it goes technically into the general pot, but once it's in the general pot, if they collect $3 million, they have to spend $3 million on roads. But most of these measures don't say that. Most of these measures just say, we would like to spend it on this, but we're going to shift some stuff around and do some other stuff with it.
There's a growing list of folks, you reported on this as well, a growing list of organizations out there that have come out against HH. I had Michael Fields on last week, and he had told me that we'd talked about the fact that AARP came out in favor of it, which leads me to become even more skeptical of AARP. But a huge number of organizations, not the least of which is CML. Talk to us about who they are and what they did.
So the Colorado Municipal League is the group that
and the counties. I'm sorry, I should have said CML and the counties. CCI.
Yeah, CML is the Colorado Municipal League, and CCI is Colorado Counties Incorporated. And those two are basically exactly what they sound like. CML is an organization that helps local municipalities with their governance. They help them with state policy. They help them write new legislation. They all get together and try to figure out what each other can do to help each other. Colorado Counties Incorporated is the same thing. And Colorado Municipal League represents the vast majority of all the municipalities in Colorado. CCI, I think, represents 62 out of the 64 counties that are in Colorado. Both organizations have come out against Proposition HH, which is phenomenal if you think about it, because HH will actually reduce the amount of money that comes into their communities because they're not part of the group that get this so-called backfill that, really isn't necessarily a backfill, but are promised so-called backfills if they lose money in the deal. So here you got counties and cities that are saying, no, this is bad for Colorado. Do not vote on this, when they are actually going to lose in the deal. It's pretty phenomenal.
Who gets the benefit of the backfill stuff, Sherrie?
Education is one that is guaranteed to be backfilled if they lose anything. And I say guaranteed loosely. And then special taxing districts like fire districts and police can apply for backfilling. But there is so much red tape around how that works. Ironically enough, the fire association, many of the fire associations across the state of Colorado have come out against HH, and they're technically guaranteed to be backfilled if they lose
Your
money.
article says the Colorado Special Districts Association that represents all of them, they've come out against HH.
Yes, and that's where the irony comes into all of this, because even the organizations that will lose money have said no, and the organizations that, even if they do lose money, are supposedly guaranteed to be backfilled by the state to make up that money, even they have said no. This Proposition HH is just bad, and everybody is recognizing that it's bad. The only people that are not recognizing that it's bad are the educrats. The education associations of the world and people affiliated with them are the only ones that think this is a good thing. And that's because it's the same thing as it always is. School districts will never say they have enough money. More.
There's something else about this. And again, I'm not a finance wizard when it comes to public financing, but it looks to me like HH is an effort to redirect funds, taxpayer funds, to the state versus the municipality. So the reason they have this backfill thing is to say, don't worry, we'll take care of you. So when they cut property taxes, that by and large hurts the locals, right? That's who benefits from the property taxes. So they say, don't worry, we'll give you a little bit this way. But in so doing, they ask us to forego our Tabor refunds. That means the state keeps all of that money. That money isn't going back to the localities, or did I miss that?
No, you didn't. And I think it works multiple different ways. Not only will the state get to keep that, but the money that would normally, and I don't know how many counties have this quote, I'm going to call it a problem, but it's not really a problem. But we're talking in Weld County, where for decades we have collected way more taxes than we should. And for decades, the county commissioners up here have rebated that money back to the property owners because they don't need it. That will stop as well. So yes, all this money that the state collects will stay with the state, and they will get to spend it however they want to spend it, because that's the way. That's exactly what they want to do. And even the so-called Tabor refunds that everybody will supposedly get again. That's not true either. Those are going to go to property owners. Those property owners have to apply for those. They don't just come automatic. You only get it on one piece of property that you own. So if you own multiple properties, you don't get it. There are so many laws and rules to HH that it is the most convoluted ballot measure I've ever witnessed as a reporter. And I don't know if you saw, but my boss took Proposition HH.
I did.
He put it into a citizens initiative. He basically copied and pasted and took it to the title board and said, "We want to put this on the ballot." And the title board said no.
That's right. They said it wouldn't be fair. It wouldn't follow the rules to do it.
It wouldn't follow the proper rules.
And Sherrie's talking about the head of the Independence Institute, Joan Caldire. You may have heard of him on the radio from time to time here on this show. Go ahead, Sherrie.
Yeah. I mean, why? If it's, first they wanted to change everything. They started saying, well, this word isn't correct. We need to, make it clearer. And I can't remember the exact word, but it was basically changing it from refunds to something else. I don't know what it was. But first they started to change the language. Then they completely changed the ballot title. And then when they finally started to recognize that
multiple issues in there, and that this was really looking bad for HH, they're like, no, we can't put this on the ballot. This will never pass muster. It's against all the constitutionality of the Colorado Constitution. It doesn't fit the bill. It just will never pass. If folks remember, Michael Field's organization actually took that ballot measure to court, but the court just simply shrugged it off, saying, well, the legislature, different rules apply to the legislature. They can do and say anything they want to mislead voters however they want. We're not going to interfere. And that's how it ends up on the ballot. But if you and I, Sherrie, wanted to put the same thing on, or John does, the title board goes, no, that breaks all the rules. We can't do that.
Right. So it is pathetic that the people have to follow one set of rules when it comes to making sure that the people are not confused in an election, while the government gets to follow another set of rules, and it doesn't matter how confused they are. Although I will say this is the first election where I've had multiple, because I always get phone calls from people asking me how to vote. It's kind of funny. I'm sure you get them as well. Yeah. And this is the first election that I've had where people have actually called and said to me, okay, so every time I see something start out with without raising taxes, I feel like it should be an automatic no. So the messaging is finally getting through. I do think that message is starting to resonate, that phrase that goes on those ballot initiatives without raising taxes, which is how I starts out, is a no. People need to remember, you don't have to vote on tax decreases. The only reason you're voting is because something is being increased.
Or they're taking something from you. And in this case, they're taking your Tabor refunds. Otherwise, you're right, the legislature could have done this months ago, but no.
Right, exactly. And they have been, the Republicans, the senators and the congressmen, or the House members at the state level, have begged and borrowed and pleaded with the governor to have a special session to really, truly look at property tax reform. And of course, he won't do that, because if he were to do that, then he would be admitting that HH is a fraud.
Well, the fact that they had to bake this again goes to this single issue restriction on you and me and John and Fields going to the ballot with language. They bootstrap the decrease in taxes, which never has to go to the voters, to the forfeiting the Tabor thing, along with the other, I think 4 issues in there, because they're trying to bamboozle voters. They just don't get it. I would love it if everybody in the following, for the next week or so would just social media tweet out or whatever, HH is a lie over and over again, because it is a lie.
Right. It's one of the, and it's again, the funny part about this is you've even noticed, or the irony in this is that you've even noticed that a lot of the mainstream media has come out with, Kyle Clark has done many things on how this is not accurate. Sean Boyd has done many things on how this is not accurate. I've watched over and over and over again how Denver media has even said HH is just a lie, period, point blank, a lie. Everybody is getting it. And so, George, I remain cautiously optimistic that this goes down in flames, but this climate, who knows? You just can't count your chickens before they hatch.
Any other, because you also keep track of the other stuff. Any other thoughts, by the way, on what's taking place in the 4th where you live? There have been, and folks that don't know this know that it is a cyclical event for the rumors to float that Congressman Ken Buck isn't going to run for re-election. That has happened, I think, every single of his 5 terms in office. People are like, I don't think he's running. This one seems to have a different fever pitch to it. Also, occurring at the same time as some things that have taken place at a high profile level in Washington, D.C. What are you hearing? What are you thinking?
Inside baseball that I've heard is that he's still kind of hanging out and feeling out his options with this CNN gig. And
so the CNN gig's real? I mean, that's not just something to chit chat about.
That's what I'm hearing, is that there really is some sort of, and I don't know if it's, if it really is CNN, but I know that there is something else in the works. Huh. I know people who have spoken with him personally about their consideration of running for that office, and him asking, for some extra time to think about it. And I don't know, I do know, one person has announced up here and has launched a campaign against him, part of the Dave Williams crew, the side of the Republican Party that would fall into the Dave Williams basket. And that's the only person that has announced to run against him. There's a couple others that are considering.
Well, Representative Holtorf out there on the Plains, I think, launched an exploratory committee or whatever that is to start that process. I've heard as many as 15, like 10 to 15, just people just trying to guess at how many folks would run there. And I'm just putting it all out on the table, just the things I've heard, because it's all fake until Ken makes a decision, I think, in large part. But I've heard every single one of the Douglas County commissioners is thinking of running, that there are, I'm not kidding. I'm not joking about that. I've heard Heidi. Well, I've heard Deb Flora on the, I mean, these are all things I've not confirmed with one of them, just all rumors.
Let's consider the Douglas County commissioners. Okay. If you take a look at those Douglas County commissioners now,
and I have,
right. Okay. George Teal, that would not be far-fetched for George Teal to run for that office. And here's why. I graduated high school with George Teal.
Wait, hold on. News flash, folks. George Teal graduated high school. Whoever had the bet that said GED, you just lost your money. I'm kidding. George is a friend. We were in ROTC at the same time in different parts of the state. We probably competed against each other in some ranger activities. Anyway, go ahead.
But the point of me saying that is because I graduated high school in Weld County. George's parents are still here. George has deep tied roots to Greeley and Weld County. So for George Teal to get into the 4th congressional district race would not be unbelievable. And it would not be hard for him to get a name up in this part of the 4th district, because he already has a name up in this part of the 4th district.
Interesting.
He is very well known up here and people like him. So that would not be, for him to jump into the race would not be far-fetched. Not a lot of people know Abe Lyden. Not a lot of people, know Laura Thomas up here. But George Teal would not be an unfetched idea to run for, because he's well known down there and he's well known up here.
And like I'd said before, I'd heard Deb, I'd heard Heidi, I've heard. I mean, there's probably more names out there that you and I haven't even thought of yet. I've heard our good buddy Sheriff Steve Reams has thought about it.
He has since confirmed that he will not run. He did. Steve did take a really long consideration, but he has
disappointing, by the way, because Steve is that kind of bull in the china shop, but in a reasonable way. I don't know how to describe it. He would be the dude that I'd want to see in Congress. I'm not saying none of these other people couldn't serve well. I'm just saying the idea of Sheriff Reams going to Congress, that's its own reality show. Do you know what I mean? Like that.
There was a lot of disappointment up here. I can tell you there was a lot of disappointment up here when Steve finally said, no, he's not going to do it.
If it's if Steve were to do it, and we can all talk about it now because it's just fantasy because he's not going to run, it would be the thing where I'd want to body cam him just on a day-to-day basis and see how he interacts with the rest of his fellow Congress people. That would be awesome.
Exactly.
That would be great TV.
Yeah, it would be great TV. You're right. But you're right. There's, I've heard all those same names. That's the first I'd heard about the Douglas County commissioners, but I have heard Heidi. I have heard, all those other same names, Deb. But
Billy's thinking about it. He didn't even live in the 4th. Billy right here is like, you know what? Maybe. I don't know.
And you know what? Your name has even come up on my list of people. People have even said to me, well, what about Brauchler? So your name is even coming up on that list.
My hope is that that's when you do the spit take of your whiskey. Just that.
That's funny. Well, yeah, no. So there definitely will be more. I think this primary will probably have. There's one thing that there is no doubt, whether Ken Buck chooses to run for re-election or not. The last time he ran, he got caught off guard at caucus. He will not get caught off guard this time. I think it's very clear that the people in the 4th Congressional District are frustrated with Ken Buck, and he will be primaried, and he will be primaried heavily. So there's no doubt in my mind.
I'll say this. If he chooses to do it, my money would be on Ken, regardless of what people think has transpired and who Ken is.
I'm with you.
My money's on Ken.
I'm with you.
He knows the districts. He's worked the district. Also a fighter. I mean, so my money would be on Ken. I just hope we don't have to get that far. Like, I hope that some of these people, if he ends up saying, hey, I'm running for re-election, decide maybe we spend that money on some other race that matters. Like, winning a Republican-controlled seat is tough.
Which is why I think the only people that you're seeing jump in the race this early are the people that are on the far right side of the party, the people that are, the more boisterous, the more loud, the more outspoken members of our party. I think that's why, because anybody else is going to, for the most part, not challenge Ken for that seat. Anybody who is more of a moderate or more of a traditional Republican is not gonna get into that primary.
Crazy stuff. One other question here, and I know we've gone a little bit long, but somebody asked, so I want to do this thing. It says, ask Sherrie if you have an update to the mess around the ghost gun ban. Whatever that
No.
Okay.
I don't. I'm sorry.
Boom. Right there.
Boom. Really?
That's
really
it right
easy.
there.
I don't have an update to that.
I love your candor. That's the kind of brevity you want when you have anyone running for office would have answered that in 5 minutes and given the exact same amount of information. So thank you for not taking that approach.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Sherrie Peif, I could talk to Sherrie all day long about politics and everything going on, but we've gone long. Sherrie, it's 7:32. We just don't do that with guests. That's all you. So thank you for that.
All right. Thank you, George. I appreciate it. I always love coming on the show.
Sherrie Peif, Complete Colorado, page 2. Check out all her great work. And by the way, don't just read it, share it with your friends out there on social media, and also continue to hashtag out there or just put it, HH is a lie. HH is a lie. So you're telling the truth in saying that H. Anyway, you get my point. Listen, we're going to cut away for a break, come back. What did you hear there? What are your thoughts on all this stuff? Have you had any other, tell me about your local ballot measures. How many different localities are asking for tax increases and for what purpose? And are you inclined to support them or not? 303-696-1971. George Brauchler, 710 KNUS. George Brauchler back with you here, 710 KNUS. My thanks to Sherrie Peif, a texter saying, hey, what's her information? Just go Google Complete Colorado page 2. Sherrie, Sherrie Peif, Peif. You will find her and all of her, a collection of her great articles. They're just the ones that the mainstream media doesn't focus on. And maybe it's a product of their funding model or something like that. They only can focus on the super lefty things that appeal to Denver. But Sherrie does not. Sherrie digs deeper and gets that stuff. Loved hearing from her on that confirmation that chair of the Colorado State GOP Party, that's probably redundant, Colorado and State, Colorado GOP Party, Dave Williams will be joining us in the 8 o'clock hour. Billy, I forgot to ask if he's able to take questions from callers or not. If not, let's just do this. Text in. If you got questions for Dave, he is great about answering all questions. Man, this guy doesn't really demur too much from even the hard ones. So if you have questions for Dave Williams as the head of the state party chair, like don't ask his favorite color or anything like that. But if you've got some of those, text them into the show off of the app, and I'll do my best to get through the ones that sound sober. No, I'm kidding. I'll ask the questions that I can. Here's something else. This is our good buddy Joan. Things are changing. People are looking at city budgets. Lakewood, under Mary Jensen's leadership, cut the mill levy because the city was collecting more than the charter indicated they should. Good for Mary. Mary's fantastic, by the way. Also, she and her husband, tremendous photography business. I've even gone out there for some stuff. They do wonderful work. It's great to hear it. She's good conservative. Great to hear that she's on the Lakewood City Council. That, of course, is my home city where I grew up. I was taken with the number of ballot measures out there that seek to raise taxes. And while I'm very, very sensitive to the increasing the sales taxes and the mill levies and all that other stuff, you know, from having listened to the show, selfishly for my own county, my home county now, Douglas County, I've only been there since 96. I am a 5A, 5B supporter. That puts me at odds with the much younger, less wise Michael Fields, who I'm a big fan of, as Michael celebrates his 5th child of, I don't know, a countless number of them. It's clear to me whatever they were teaching in sex ed when Michael was sick that day, because he just keeps making children and they're all fantastic. But while he's in the throes of that, I think it's hurt his brain because he is opposed to this measure that I really support, if only because I'm worried about our ability to retain the great teachers that we have in Douglas County. We've already lost a bunch. I don't know how the recruiting is going. I am worried that we're going to continue to see the hemorrhaging of good teachers. And I don't think that folks appreciate, especially the ones that are now in Douglas County whose kids may have left the nest. I don't think they appreciate the connection between quality education and home values, because people move to a place where they feel a couple big things. One, they're going to be safe. In my opinion, that's number one. And Douglas County just does a great job between Parker, Castle Rock, and Lone Tree. They just do great things. And we want to keep that going, by the way. We want to be the island of safety on the outer banks there of chaos spilling out of Denver. But the other thing is education. If you don't feel like you're moving, people move to a community because of the education. In the past, people have moved to Douglas County simply because it has such a strong performing public school system. And by public school, I'm including charters in there. It has a robust charter school system as well. I know because my kids benefited from it. So in this one area, and I appreciate Dave DiCarlo, who was on last week running for school board. I appreciate his position and Michael's, which is, hey, the money's there. We don't need to increase the money. It just needs to be reallocated. We got a 4-3 conservative majority in the Douglas County School District, and these things continue to go on. Now, you can either say, well, it's because they're not true conservatives. I don't believe that. Mike Peterson is a legit conservative, as are these other members. I just don't think right now, with the system that's set up the way it is, there's any way to get the bucks needed into the classroom. Somehow Cherry Creek's figured out how to do it. That's why people are leaving to go get a $13,000 a year pay raise to go up the street. And this idea that, hey, we're doing great without raising pay, let's just keep doing it. I'm telling you, you are flirting with disaster. You're going to end up with more of the less experienced, less qualified teachers. And I don't think that folks appreciate, especially the ones that are now in Douglas County whose kids may have left the nest. I think it's hurt his brain because and you're going to end up with more of them and less of your veterans. And by the way, in no way do you hear me saying I'm in favor of paying all teachers the same amount, whether they suck or whether they're good. There are some teachers, I'm not a guy too that drinks the Kool-Aid of, hey, if you've gone into education, it must be because you have a big heart and you're super and you're great. I don't think that either. I think like any other profession, there are teachers who are great and we want to hang on to them, and teachers who just suck, or maybe they were great at one point, but they're retired in place. I mean, education is a place you can go and hide. And unfortunately, hiding when you're not good at what you do anymore, you've lost the passion for it, hiding only hurts our kids. So don't hear me to say I'm just all teachers all the time. But the ones that I know out of Rocky Heights and Rock Canyon, the ones, my selfish anecdotal view of this is they're just not paid enough to keep them on board. And I want to keep the good ones. And I'm not willing to say, let's sacrifice the good ones in the name of making sure we don't pay the bad ones more. We got to figure out a better system. But in the meantime, we are losing great teachers. And that's my opinion on those particular measures, 5A and 5B. And so I guess that's my way of saying, and as you know, when we had Michael Fields on the radio last week talking about it, at the very end, you could hear him concede, once again, George, you are right and I'm wrong. He's actually never, ever said those words once in his life, including last week. But if I put it out there, maybe people will believe it, but it's not true. He's still opposed to 5A and 5B, but I support 5A and 5B, and I'm a consumer of the public school stuff. I've been doing it now since 2006, 2007, and it's going to keep happening until Grammy graduates, which he is, 5 years from now, class of 28, 29 or something. I mean, what? Do you remember the little letter jackets where you'd have like on your thing there, 87, 88, 89, 90? I remember seeing people with like 91 on there and thinking you're a child. Now we're going to have people on there with 29. I mean, what? Craziness. 303-696-1971. Interested in your thoughts on that. Some questions coming in here that we'll ask Dave. This is an important one, and you can jump on this too. Oh, Billy just told me I've hosed us on the time, but let me throw this out because I want to hear your questions for Dave because he answers them. That's just this guy's that approachable, that transparent. Ask Dave why the party is charging presidential candidates to get their name on the primary ballot. Didn't know that. That's a great question. And I wonder what we're charging them. Do we charge any other candidates or just the presidential candidates? That's a great question. If you have questions, text them in here. You can also, let's find out first if Dave can stick around and answer some questions, because the conversations we have just end up going so long. If he doesn't do a second segment, I just can't do it. But you can text him in and I'll try to fit him in. Hey, stick around. Got to cut away for a quick break. It's George Brauchler on The George Show, 710 KNUS. George Brauchler back with you here, 710 KNUS. Got about a minute or so before we cut away for the end of this hour. Some text coming in right now. I like these questions people are thinking. I'll give these to Dave as well. Hopefully he's listening in preparation. Here's one. Dave, what do you have to say to mainstream GOP members who feel like they're being alienated? Here's another one. How are you appealing to the unaffiliated voter? Other questions about the fundraising stuff. These are all good questions. And listen, Dave's been great about coming on, I think, every month, just about every month, unless my schedule has screwed up or something, to answer these questions. I like that. We've also, you should know, by the way, I made efforts to reach out to whoever that guy is, Shad, what's his name, Hanging Shad or whatever, from the Democrat Party, to see if he'd come on and answer questions. And so far, crickets, man. No chance that he is coming back on. I should also mention, this is the last week for Stephen Tubbs. This is it. Friday, he pops smoke, leaves the LZ, and that's it. We don't see or hear from him again, other than in a booking photo or his documentary or something like that, maybe on social media. But this guy is going to be gonzo. I keep thinking he's going to announce sometime this week, probably Friday at about 6:50, he's extending the farewell tour, because right now he's at week 63 of the farewell tour, and it's been going great. But at some point, he's going to have to blank or get off the pot, and maybe this is the week he blanks. I don't know. Hey, stick around. Dave Williams next. George Brauchler, 710 KNUS. George Brauchler back with you halfway through the Monday show. It's freaking cold out there. Only 2 days left in October. November starts on Wednesday. That means the following Tuesday is do or die day for a whole bunch of school board candidates, municipal candidates, and HH and other tax measures out there. GOP working hard to try to make sure that the right outcomes occur and all of those things. No better person to talk to, as we are wont to do every single month, than with Dave Williams. He is the chair of the state GOP party. Sir, thanks for making time out of your morning to speak with us.
You bet, George. Thanks for having me.
Tell me first off, what is your sense of how Tuesday is going to turn out in terms of HH1? That's the big one. That's on everybody's ballot. But then on a lot of these local school board and other measures, what is your sense out there?
Yeah, I think it's going to be close on HH. I think we have the momentum. I think those who really want to make sure that folks understand that HH is nothing more than a scam foisted on us by Democrats, we're going to win the day. But I can't stress this enough. You got to get your ballots in. You got to vote against HH and make sure that Jared Polis and the Democrats don't, get a fast one by us.
We have been, as a party, pretty active in court these days. Do you have updates for us on some of the things that are going on? I mean, the big one is obviously the primary and whether or not unaffiliates can weigh in on that. Any update on where we're at with that?
Yeah. We I believe the next phase is to have a scheduling conference with the judge, which was interesting. What we noticed was that the Attorney General's office didn't file a motion to dismiss or anything like that. They simply filed a response to our initial briefing, outlining why they think we're incorrect, but why they're correct. The thing to take note about it, though, is they didn't ask for the court to dismiss it or anything, so they saved us a couple of months of back and forth on that, and now we're moving straight into when to get the trial scheduled. That's
interesting. Was that a surprise with the legal guys? And who did we hire to represent the party on this?
So we have John Eastman and his firm, and then Randy Corcoran is working the local angle of it. And it was a surprise to us. We figured that they would try to drag this out, as it's been their history to do that, but drag this out through various motions and briefings, and they didn't. So now we're moving on.
That's impressive. Now, is that this thing? I've got this court document in front of me that talks about, it says joint response to the court's topics for the October 30th, 2023 hearing. That's tomorrow. That's today. What's the hearing going on today?
This is the Trump trial.
The ballot access. I feel like an idiot. I should have just read the caption. Sorry, Dave. This is the big one too. This is where Jenna Griswold has said, I'm going to stay out of this one other than to root against Donald Trump. And there's a lawsuit going by some people, including some, disappointingly, including some people who called themselves Republicans, to show up on this thing and block ballot access for President Trump. What's going on today?
You bet. Well, this is the start of a week-long trial. It's to take in evidence and hear arguments, and that the judge will then afterward render a ruling. We tried to, as well as President Trump's legal team, we all tried to file, motions to dismiss. They were denied, unfortunately. But to be fair to the judge, she's also denied a few of the other side's motions. So they wanted to depose President Trump, and she denied that. So I think what's going on here is the judge is trying to allow for each side to offer evidence into the record, and then she'll make hopefully a ruling in our favor.
Do we have the same team representing us on that? I'm trying to look at the caption here.
No, we don't. So Scott Gessler is working Trump's, response in this, and then we retain the American Center for Law and Justice, headed by Jay Sekulow. He was one of the main attorneys who defended Donald Trump in the first impeachment.
What's your sense of this one too, in terms of our potential for success? I ask that because I'm worried, not that we're going to lose, just I'm worried that the precedent that this would set in allowing states to just sort of willy-nilly decide, well, we think that this individual has engaged in disqualifying insurrection, or whatever words they want to use from that Section 3 of the 14th Amendment, and just block them from showing up on the ballot.
Yeah, this is actually very important. It's a significant risk. The fact that it's even gotten this far, I think, shows that it's a big risk. this should have been dismissed, very quickly, but it wasn't, unfortunately. And there are other secretaries of state around the country that are looking for guidance on how to handle this particular situation. And of course, people like Jenna Griswold just want to summarily dismiss Donald Trump from these various states. And that of course is something we shouldn't do. It's un-American, undemocratic. The answer is, if you don't like Donald Trump, campaign against him. Don't
Right.
take away someone's vote.
That's exactly right. Or I'll say this, Dave, and I think you'd be here, but I should ask, if he were actually prosecuted and successfully convicted of insurrection or whatever the words are that disqualify him, I'd feel differently about that. But this isn't that. Do you feel the same way?
Well, yeah, but that's not the question. I mean, there has been no due process.
That's right. That's right.
There's not even a charge of any kind. And this is a part of the argument from the petitioners, is that this is a self-executing,
which is nonsense.
And that it doesn't make sense. That's going to allow for abuse that we've never seen in this country before, and that's why we hope the judge sees it our way.
The idea, though, that a single individual in a robe can make a decision that would just block someone who has been president and who is likely to become the party's nominee in the future, I don't know, Dave, that it makes any difference in terms of the electoral math, right? Like, I don't think Trump's winning Colorado. I don't think you think Trump's winning Colorado. But what I do think, and I don't think they count on this, it's the kind of thing that I think would cause a lot of folks right now who may be on the fence, undecided, wherever they're at, to say, oh, hell no. You try to take away my ability to vote for someone on the ballot, then the fix is in. I'm going to show up even bigger for him than I would have otherwise. That's how I feel about it. Like, I feel like if you tried to take away my ability to vote for or against a candidate based on this nonsense, you're going to get a motivated supporter for that person, not even just because of that person, but because of what you said. The principle, this is not America. This is not how we do it.
Yeah, I think that's what's playing out across the country. And if they are successful here, it's going to affect other states. There are other secretaries of state that are going to just do it on their own. The only reason Jenna Griswold hasn't done this is because she's gutless. She wants the court to give her political cover. But make no mistake, she believes Donald Trump engaged in insurrection and would, if she had her way, would get him off the ballot. That's why we're fighting this.
She was on CNN saying as much just the other day. I mean, those clips are floating around social media. Here she is like, I shouldn't weigh in on this. And then going on and saying election denier, tried to steal. I mean, she says all the words, but then you're right. She's feckless when it comes to making the decision here about how to move forward. That's interesting. So that's this week. Is that in a Denver courtroom, in a federal courtroom?
Yep. No, it's in a state district court. Trial starts today, lasts again for a week till Friday. Pretty unprecedented, pretty historic, and we're glad to be allowed in on the case. We intervened, and we're going to make our arguments as to why we think Trump should stay on the ballot.
Are you going to be in the courtroom?
Not today, but I will eventually. They're gonna call me to the stand and ask me questions about the party's role and why we care to ensure Trump stays on the ballot.
Interesting. Along those lines, this is a nice segue into another topic. And I've asked people to text in some questions, and they have. But tell us again the update on where we're at party fundraising.
Yeah, we're doing all right. I think we're on track to hit our end of year goal. We're, I think after the I keep saying Lincoln Day dinner, the Centennial State dinner, we're going to be around probably $400,000, and that's pretty good. We are at this point in a good place financially. We're paying our bills on time, and we have turned a corner from some of the issues we've had when I first took over.
What do you expect to be at by the end of the year?
$500,000. $500,000 is where we're aiming to be, and I think we're on track to make sure that happens. And as we kick the campaign cycle into gear, when we get to 2024, we'll see an uptick in donations and people wanting to make sure Democrats are defeated.
Somebody sent me a link to an article that works nicely with a question that somebody texted in and said, are we charging people money to show up on the ballot? And I see an article here that was sent to me from here it is, Colorado Sun. And it says we are charging, or maybe charging is the wrong word. I don't know how you describe it, Dave, but that Donald Trump has given the party $40,000. Doug Burgum has given $20,000. What is that about?
This is a presidential filing fee that has been instituted by the party. This is in line with a lot of other states. South Carolina charges 50 grand, Idaho charges 50 grand, Nevada charges 55 grand. And the reason that this is done is to essentially filter out serious candidates from non-serious candidates. There have been a number of, non-serious candidates who wanted to get onto the ballot, so we had to create a mechanism by which we decided, hey, if you're serious, okay, prove it. And one way to do that is through fundraising. And so that's what that fee represents.
Is that well, and I see that Doug Burgum paid 20 and Trump paid 40. Why the differing amounts?
There's three options. If you don't want to commit to coming to Colorado, you can pay a flat $40,000 fee, and you're on the ballot that shows you're serious and viable. But if you want to commit to coming to Colorado and participating in a party event, we'll go ahead and discount it to $20,000. We want to encourage participation from these presidential campaigns, and that was one way to help lower, the cost, but still, help ensure that Colorado would be a priority.
My understanding here is other states do something like this. How did we come up with those numbers? Because this article says that maybe it's North Dakota, only requires like $2,500.
Yeah, not all states are the same, and I think it's also, it's based on how important the state is, where the state is on the election calendar. We're a Super Tuesday state, so we're not late, but we're also not early either. What we did is we researched what other Republican parties from across the country did, and we tried to come up with a fee schedule that wasn't, was in the middle of the pack. We'll say that. It wasn't too low, it wasn't too high.
Which states charge more than we do, and how much is that?
Well, like I said, South Carolina charges 50 grand. Florida, they charge 75 grand unless you participate in one of their events, and then they discount it.
How much do they discount it to if you participate in one of their events?
$25,000. Alabama charges, I believe, $25,000. Arkansas, $25,000. It was a fascinating research project that we did, but we landed somewhere in the middle of the pack.
What's the use of the money? What does the party do with it?
Party is going to earmark it. Well, we were going to prioritize it for the opt-out should that have passed, but now we're going to prioritize it for national convention stuff. We have to, have our delegates to the national level go to Milwaukee, so we'll use that to take care of some of those obligated costs that we have to pay for. Of
the funds we've raised thus far, I mean, at least in the month that we got these checks from Trump and Burgum, what percentage of that are these fees paid by the candidates?
I mean, it's not high. I don't have the specific percentage, but I'll tell you this: these fees, no one gets rich off these things. I mean, it's just a way to show that these candidates can hobble together enough money to run for president and that they're serious. Because if you can't fundraise $20,000 in $1 billion contest, then maybe you shouldn't be running.
I agree with that as one of the yardsticks. That the polling thing is the other, but I'm doing the math in my head, and if we're going to end up at the end of the year with $500,000, and folks are paying somewhere between 20 to 40,000 who are the big candidates, and I can't remember how many legit candidates we have on the ballot right now or running for this thing right now, but that seems like that would be half or more of the funds that we'd have on hand. Is that how you're calculating that?
No, I don't think I'd calculate it that way. I mean, it depends on who actually puts their fees in. Keep this in mind. We've only done two. The other campaigns haven't submitted anything yet. So we don't.
No, that's what I'm saying is that if you get those others, and we don't know, you're right, we don't know. But if you get and I'm trying to picture in my head between Vivek and Nikki and Ron and the rest of them, that if they're each chipping in 20 to 40 grand, that's hundreds of thousands of bucks. If you get everybody on that stage last time, obviously we've lost one of those candidates since, but that could be a lot of money.
It could be. I mean, we'll certainly, again, use it for the benefit of the entire, Republican field, whoever just goes on to be the nominee. But the party is not going to be made or break because of these fees.
Is it fair to say because DJT gave the $40,000 check that he is just not going to promise to come to Colorado?
That's the way. That's one way to look at it. We hope that he that he will come, but the fact that he paid the fee doesn't mean he's promising to come. And I take it that his schedule is so busy that he just doesn't want to commit. Doesn't mean that he doesn't want to come.
Mike Pence, former vice president under Donald Trump, has bowed out of the race, and we'll talk about that a little later and got some sound. But what's your impression of that I guess that outcome to that short-lived campaign?
You know, I think it was obviously made the most sense for him to do that. If you're not gaining traction as you get closer to those early states, you got to start making a decision, especially when these filing deadlines come in place. So, you know, we're one state where you have to apply, get our approval, pay your fees, but there are many other states, especially Super Tuesday states, where you're bumping up on those deadlines. And so I think that's the other benefit to having these rules like ours that are in place. It helps these candidates decide whether or not they have enough juice to go forward. And he's an honorable guy, and we appreciate that he put himself forward, but it was probably the right decision given where he was.
Why do you think he flailed so poorly? And I asked that in the context of, in the past, Dave, we've seen vice presidential candidates, not all of them make it to get the nomination, but they're all at least legit strong competitors in the conversation. Mike Pence has never been in the conversation.
I think it's just given the quality of candidates that exist beyond Mike Pence. You do have legitimate candidates that are not named Donald Trump, who, that's the other thing. Donald Trump's leading, all these guys by a significant amount. But you have people like Governor DeSantis, Ambassador Haley. You have Vivek Ramaswamy. I think he kind of came out of nowhere. But these guys, they're all qualified. And, there are other people that wanted to, the voters just wanted to look at these other people as opposed to Pence. And I got to say, there is a strong, it's reflected in the polls. You have people that support Donald Trump. Naturally those people are not going to support Mike Pence. So when you break out the anti-Trump vote, Mike's not going to be at the top of the list.
How much of this do you think is related to what he didn't do on January the 6th?
Well, again, that's hard to say. That's hard to say, right? Because naturally those who support Donald Trump are not going to support any of the other candidates. And those opposing Donald Trump probably don't disagree with what Mike Pence didn't do on January 6th. So my gut tells me that didn't play into it. I mean, if there were a number of our large population of anti-Trump voters out there that wanted to support Mike Pence, they would have, but they have other options like Governor DeSantis.
And let's move to another topic. We're talking with Dave Williams, chair of the Colorado GOP. I receive the emails, and I appreciate this, by the way, the amount of emails that I get from the state party. Couple of them in the past couple weeks have been, hey, the Colorado Republican Party supports Jim Jordan for speaker. And then it went through a kind of a narrative of why and the times and all the stuff that we need right now. My question in getting that email was, who's speaking for the entire Republican Party? Was this a vote of the Central Committee, Executive Committee? Is this a you and the other top members' decision? How does that get made?
Yeah, it's me and the other top members' decision, but a lot of it was driven by the amount of phone calls that we were receiving from Republicans all across the state. I can't overstate this enough. People were really mad about this speaker fiasco that we had for the past 3 weeks. And when, Jim Jordan was the guy, but he had holdouts like Ken Buck, you better believe it. We were receiving thousands of phone calls and emails. And so we felt that we needed to put something out saying, look, we got a nominee. Let's go ahead and support him. So that's why we put it out.
Did the party put out ones for the subsequent nominees too, the Scalise's and the inevitable now we know the Speaker Johnson?
Scalise was the first guy before Jim Jordan, and then he quickly dropped out.
That's what I'm saying, though, is did we put him out for the first guy, or did we and if we didn't, why not?
Well, no, we didn't, because we weren't receiving the kind of input or inquiry from our our base voters at that time. And it was so quick that Scalise dropped out that there was just no opportunity or need for us to do that. And then Mike Johnson, he got his support relatively quickly after Emmer, which we did oppose Emmer. And we opposed him for good, solid reason. This guy wanted to, have the national popular vote be the way to elect president.
Yeah, I think that sucks too. But who's the we that made that decision?
Well, your party leadership. Look, elections have consequences. I was elected to be the chair, and I do get to make these decisions. And if people don't like it, I understand. I'll hear you out. But at the end of the day, organize and elect a new chair, I guess.
So, but just to be clear, because when I get emails from the party that talk about the party's position that I know have been vetted through the central committee or the executive committee or whatnot. And then some of the emails, it sounds like it's you and you and the other two members of the leadership, I guess, must have chatted about this before the decision was made.
Yeah, we've been chatting throughout the whole time in real time. And we get emails not only individually, but through the party about how, I don't want to pick on Ken Buck, but it was relevant and germane. Hey, why isn't he supporting the nominee, Jim Jordan? We love Jim Jordan. So on and so forth. And, we had so many rank and file Republicans tell us, we're not donating a dime until you guys, back Jim Jordan or back, whoever the speaker nominee is. Again, not so much for Emmer because he was only the nominee for 4 hours.
Yeah.
But that's kind of how it went.
Did you support Ken Buck's decision to vote to not support McCarthy? I guess I don't know how else to describe it, but you know what I'm talking about. The vote that ultimately was the vote of no confidence that got McCarthy out of leadership. Did you support that?
Well, we didn't weigh in on it until we started getting press inquiries and hearing, from our own members. It was mixed. There was a number of our members who said, "Oh, this shouldn't have happened." Others that should have. When I looked at it along with the other leadership, we looked at it and we're like, look, we can't fault him. I think we all agree that Washington has been broken and that there are too many games being played. That's especially true because of the $30 trillion in debt that we're looking at. So we didn't fault him. We felt that he made a principled decision in doing that. Do we agree that it should have been done? I don't know if we want to go that far. Hindsight's always 20/20. I think Lauren Boebert, probably said it best. Was it right to get rid of him? Maybe. Was it the right time? Maybe not.
Yeah. Any thoughts on how the party might weigh in? If it hasn't, I missed it, Dave, forgive me, but on Ukraine and Israel.
Well, we definitely think it needs to be bifurcated. No one's quite asked us this question. We want to allow our legislators and our delegation to make those decisions without always having to weigh in on this stuff. But it makes complete sense that we don't go along with Biden's proposal to, couple the two together. Let's go ahead and have an up or down vote on both of them separately.
What's your sense of it in terms of, and I get distinguishing between the two, but what's your sense of support for whatever we're doing in Ukraine with those jillions of bucks and what's being proposed to do for Israel?
I think what's going on in Israel is something that we have to, prioritize over Ukraine. We've been dumping, massive amounts of money into Ukraine and not really, seeing good results. In fact, we're seeing a number of things that are problematic. This is why a number of folks in Congress are asking for oversight and accountability on where that money's going. Number one. And number two, when you have Ukraine actually persecuting Christians in that region, then it starts to become a question of, well, wait a minute, are we actually, supporting people that are, have pure intentions? I can't say that we do based off of what we've been looking at.
Yeah, that's its own debate. How about Israel? You think that's one that's got to be prioritized?
Sure. They're under attack, not only from Hamas, but there are other elements around that region that are just going after Israel. They're our strongest ally, and we got to step up, especially since Americans have been taken hostage and killed.
We have a celebrant of Hamas right here in our legislature, appointed by 38 nut jobs in Denver. His name's Tim Hernandez. I know you've weighed in on this, as have I. Any update? I mean, this guy finally did a hostage-like apology video. Any status on what can be done or what will be done? It feels like he's gone to ground, and he's just going to try to wait this thing out.
Yeah, I think that's the strategy of all the Democrats. Wait this out and hopefully it blows over. But I don't think they can, especially as this conflict continues on, and as you see other Democrats, being tone deaf and talking about how there needs to be a ceasefire, in the region. The Tim Hernandez issue is not going away. I know that there are a number of Republicans in the legislature that are going to push for this guy's expulsion, and rightfully so. You can't have a lawmaker in the chamber who supports political violence. I don't advocate for expulsion lightly, but in this instance, I think it makes sense. This guy refuses to even straight out, unequivocally condemn the violence. And the only time he does something remotely like that is when his arm's twisted. Let's get him out.
If you are a Jewish member of the Democratic coalition there, or the delegation of legislators, and there's Senator, and I'm going to mess up her name, buddy, you're going to have to correct me, but Daphne Janae, I'm going to mess it up. Forgive me.
No, that's good. That's
okay.
Good. Daphne Michelson Janae.
Daphne Michelson Janae. If you're her, how do you serve with this guy in the same caucus? I mean, how do you hang out with people who, have celebrated the rape, beheading of babies, the kidnapping? How do they get along? And I asked that question. That's a microcosm here in Colorado. But Dave, this thing to me feels like it has the potential to cause a fissure between a portion of the Democratic Party. That's amazing.
Yeah, it does. And I think we need to highlight it as a party, because this guy, again, he wasn't elected. He was appointed. This is not someone that the people put in. And for someone like Daphne, I guarantee you it's hard. This hits very home to her, and I think the saving grace for her is that she serves in the Senate and serves in the House, so they don't actually have to see each other. But the fact that he's in their caucus and that the Democrats won't, appropriately hold this guy accountable, I think speaks volumes, and that's why we need to do what we can to expose the Democrats for who they really are. These guys are okay with their caucus members having sympathy for terrorists, and we can't tolerate that.
This is just another giant zit on the poor complexion of single-party government, man. It's just when we don't have a competitive alternative, this is the kind of garbage that gets visited upon the state of Colorado. We have got to win some damn races.
Yeah, I think we will, and I think a first good step is voting against HH. That's going to, I think, set the stage for 2024, and it's going to start to expose who the Democrats are. They're out of touch. They're not the ones who care about, the real issues of everyday citizens. And we're going to start to restore balance after this election going into 2024.
Last question from another text. There's been a bunch, Dave, but this one goes back to the case we talked about. Do you know who the judge is for this Denver case that we're...
Yes, I forgot her first name, but it's Judge Wallace. She was appointed relatively recently. I think she started first of the year in January. So she's a rookie, I guess, to the bench, and now she has one of the most important cases in the history of the Republic.
Well, I don't think either side believes it's going to end there. I think they all know it's going to go up above. So, hey, Dave Williams, thanks for such an extended period of time to have the conversation. Dave is the chair of the state GOP. He joins us on a regular basis, and I can't tell you how much I appreciate it. The voters, too. I mean, just based on the text response, too. So thanks, Dave.
You bet. Take care, George.
Good luck out there. Hey, we're going to come back from a break. If you've got other questions or thoughts on what you've heard, there are other topics that have grown out of that conversation. We tried to cover as many things as we can. Give us a call, 303-696-1971. Are we in a good place? Are we on the right track? What do you want to see happen? George Brauchler, 710 KNUS. George Brauchler back with you here, 710 KNUS. My thanks to Dave Williams. He is the Colorado GOP chair. Kind of wide-ranging conversation. I appreciate Dave's willingness to come on and answer all the questions. We just don't agree on everything, but who cares, right? Like, that's the whole point of having this conversation. If we were all lockstep with each other, we'd be a different party, not the Republican Party. Heard a lot of things in there that I think are fodder for additional conversation, and I hope you do too. 303-696-1971. Interesting that we have this thing where we're charging the presidential candidates money. That doesn't, I appreciate the answer too, which is, look, we want serious candidates, and serious candidates can raise money. And of course, the only two candidates who have so far paid it are the two self-funders, right? I mean, you've got billionaire Donald Trump and cajillionaire Doug Burgum, the guys that can write it. So that amount of money is clearly not a lone measure of being a serious candidate. So if it was that tied to polling, which is the standard to get on the stage for these debates, and I think, by the way, that was the final straw that broke the camel's back on the Pence campaign. I think they realized they weren't going to make the stage, and they bowed out. But this idea that we're just going to fundraise off the backs of presidential candidates, I don't know. Is it smart? Is it pragmatic? Is it all weird? If we were raising hundreds of thousands of dollars and this was just a drop in the bucket, maybe it's not as big a deal, but I'm anxious to see where we end up at the end of the year. I want Dave to be right. I want us to have raised $500,000, but you can do the math. If there are 6 remaining legitimate candidates, and they're probably going to make this decision as they get closer to the primary, see if they survive it. They don't need to make that, like, we don't have a deadline. Maybe we should, but they don't have a deadline to appear on the primary ballot. I should have asked Dave if there's a deadline. They're probably going to wait until getting closer to that time, whatever it is. There might be a deadline to file in Colorado. I just don't know. Billy, that's something I ought to look at. I don't know what the deadline is, but if you have 6 candidates, each giving $20,000 to $40,000, that's, somewhere between $120 and $250,000 million. If you're only going to raise half, and I say only relative to that number, $500,000 at the end of the year, 50% of your fundraising is on the backs of presidential candidates. That's interesting. That's interesting. And you can go through the 6 names as well as I can. Frankly, it's probably more than that. I'm also intrigued by the fact that the DJT has paid the fee necessary to not have to come here. And I know a lot of folks out there looking at the polls would say, why would that guy come here? He's never, ever, never going to win the state of Colorado. And I believe that. He is not going to win the state of Colorado. Got crushed here the last time he ran. Got close with Hillary, but damn, it was Hillary, right? Got within 5. But even that's a pretty healthy loss, 5 points. Here's some other texts that have come in based on what Dave said. I found nothing to say Ukraine is targeting Christians, but plenty saying Russia is. Why did you let him get away with that statement? I didn't let him get away with anything. People can come on here and, less cough syrup in the morning, Billy, and voice their opinions. Just simply because I don't take them on every single fact stated isn't me adopting them. I'm not retweeting it with approval. It's just I have a limited amount of time to get to the issues I want. And if I wanted to take the last 4 minutes and make them a debate about Ukraine, I could have. That wasn't my purpose in it. I don't think that they're targeting Christians in that way. Billy was talking to me about some stuff off air that I didn't know about that I found interesting. But for me, it's irrelevant. It's irrelevant if they're targeting Christians. And I'm not telling you I agree that they do. In geopolitical matters where we are taking on a near-peer competitor and a historic mischief maker when it comes to America and its interests, I don't care. The enemy of my enemy can be my friend for that short-term purpose. That is not to say that Ukraine is America light. It's not to say it's even like any of our European allies. Don't care for purposes of thwarting the expansionist efforts of Russia and Putin. We are better off when Russia loses, even if a Ukraine that wins this engagement isn't an ideal country for us to partner up with. And I also hold open the possibility that sometime in the future, we may end up opposing Ukraine, even militarily. I don't care. The bigger issue is Russia, not Ukraine. And if we have to go through some purity test on who we're going to defend and support based on whether or not their values and principles align completely with ours, we're going to be super lonely because there aren't a lot of countries that do it. So in this limited engagement, yep, go get them. We'll help you. You may not be our buddy. You may not be inviting you overseas for picnics and stuff in the future. But in terms of taking down the big bully in that part of the world, absolutely. So that's why I don't engage them on that. It's not as big an issue for me. I'm interested to know, though, how they distinguish between Ukraine and Israel. Because remember, the big thing with Ukraine has been, one, yes, let's talk about they've got some Nazi sympathizers and white supremacists. They've got all those things. But we can't afford to spend the money over there. We have to spend the money on the southern border, and we don't. We can't walk and chew gum at the same time, and we're on great. MTG, Marjorie Taylor Greene, she has come out and said she's not going to vote for even supporting any sort of support for Israel because of the $33 trillion in debt that we're at. That may sound fiscally responsible, but what? I think the problem for the Republicans who've carved out the no more funds to Ukraine is before Israel happened, before October the 7th, they could say, oh, it's about the money. It's about the money. It's about the money. And now all of a sudden we're like, oh, wait, but we want to support Israel. That's about money too. How do we justify those? And now we've fallen back on it's the money. And by the way, Ukraine isn't buddy on a lot of our values. I get it. I don't care. We want Russia to lose. And if you're out there and you think, oh, Russia's not that bad, you are wrong. This isn't a debatable issue. Honestly, this is, if you are a Russia sympathizer or you see them as someone that we can deal with, or you have this love affair with the dictatorship that is the Putin administration, if you can even call it an administration, you're just wrong. Russia is a menace to America. We do not have any long-term allies, but we do have long-term United States interests. And so if we got a buddy with Ukraine, whatever you think is going on with them in the short term, I'm okay with that, as long as it helps to take down or hold at bay Russia. 303-696-1971 is the number. Look, let me tell you about something. I got to cut away for a break. The phone lines are ringing here. I want to tell you about UltraCur. And Kerr has, like, I think, a little umlaut, the little two dots above the U. This is that product that takes away and diminishes the pain that comes from inflammation. It's a deoxidant, anti-aging supplement, patented, all natural. Our friends at UltraCur have figured this thing out, and they're so excited about it. They don't charge you money to help prove to you that this is the product that you need to make a difference moving forward. They say, don't take our word for it. Trust your own results. Go to the natural grocers. They're all over the place. Easy to Google or Waze or whatever you use. And go to the Vitamin Manager. If you try to find this on your own in natural grocers, you're going to be incredibly frustrated because they don't keep it out beyond the Vitamin Manager. And there's a reason for it. Everybody would take it all. One person would grab it all up and say, I have a free 100-day supply instead of the free 3-day supply. So for you to get, you just go to the Vitamin Manager. Everybody's doing it. These things keep getting sold out's the wrong term. They keep running out of this product. This is what we're hearing from people that text in. Went to my natural grocers. They're out of it. Keep going back. I'm telling you, get it. You get the 3-day supply. The reason 3 days matters is their studies show that 50% of everybody that tries it experiences relief in 48 hours. Well, maybe you're in that group. Maybe you're in the group that's a little bit longer than 48 hours. But do you know, of that 48-hour group, 50% of them experience relief within 2 hours? 2 hours? It costs you nothing but the effort to go into your natural grocers where you may be going anyway and getting the 3-day free supply. Hell, they'll give you another 3-day supply to give to a neighbor, a friend, someone that you care about. Check them out at getultranow.com. That's getultranow.com. And then let us know how it works. Billy and I have used it. I'm telling you, it doesn't make a pain-free living when you're trying to do, or existence when you're doing all this running and stuff, but it makes the pain last less long. That's my experience with it. That's what I experienced. And let us know how it goes. We're going to cut away for a break. We're going to come back. We're going to get to your calls, your texts, 303-696-1971, George Brauchler, 710 KNUS.
Say goodbye to clutter and hello to convenience when you experience organization transformation in your home. Roll them out shelves. Your clutter transformation experts create affordable Colorado-crafted organized storage solutions. These custom options will maximize and organize your kitchen and bath storage as Roll them out shelves carefully designs and builds roll-out drawers to fit your space perfectly to clear the clutter. Contact owners Joyce and Brent at Roll them out Shelves to schedule your free in-home estimate today.
George Brauchler back with you here, 710 KNUS. I don't have a ton of time, but I want to honor the callers when they call in. Brian, you're on. I've got about a minute and a half to give you. You can use it.
Hey, George, I just want to know what it looks like if Ukraine wins. What does that look like, Ukraine winning?
How do we define victory over there?
Yeah, what does it look like at the end of the
I think it looks like Russia is expelled from what they currently occupy in Ukraine. I mean, God willing, even Crimea, but that one's not a deal breaker. And then it hobbles Russia enough in the short term that they can't launch any more of these expansionist incursions into any other countries. That would be victory.
And you really think that's possible?
I think it's possible.
You think Russia's just going to go, okay, well, we quit? I
don't think they're going to say that I don't think they're going to say we quit, but go ahead.
I know in World War II they lost more soldiers than any other country. I know it was in the millions. They don't even.
Brian, we're losing you, buddy. Your connection is horrible. It's the first time it's ever been like that. Are you?
Oh, no bad. I got to flip. I'll call another time, George. You have a good day.
Thanks, man. Hey, I appreciate that from Brian. What does victory look like? That's my opinion. Get Russia expelled out of there. And the question that he asked was, do I think that Russia is just going to go away willy-nilly? No, I think they're going to have to be forced to go away. But this, again, I can't imagine the hubris it takes for us to think that we can show up and tell Ukraine, you have to give up some of your land in the name of peace. We would never do that. We would never say, all right, have Alaska, just please stop shooting. We would never do that. How do we go to Ukraine and tell them you got to give it up? Russia's asked for it, and they got a lot of guns and nukes, so you better do it. How does that sound? Hey, when we come back, Kelly Caufield, she's the executive director of the Common Sense Institute, huge report on homelessness. Try to guess the amount of money that's been spent on that Denver metro area problem in the last few years. You're going to be shocked. Stick around. George Brauchler, 710 KNUS. George Brauchler back with you here for the final hour of the George Show on 710 KNUS. You may have heard that there is a homeless issue/crisis in Denver. I don't know if you've ever seen it. We drive by it on a daily basis, although Billy, admittedly, I don't, and it's in the dark when we drive here. I have not seen the same little homeless towns by the 225 Parker interchange lately.
Yeah, there aren't, but there are a couple of them have moved a little bit. I don't know, maybe they need to, maybe the wind blows better, or they need to get away from the trash left behind at the other places. But they're under that ridge as it sits against the fence along Cherry Creek State Park, and right when you're running along Parker, right along that ridge, they've gone there, and there are a few others. But yeah, we don't have the large, what looks like almost a multi-complex home developing, and also near 225 and Parker Road. That entrance ramp, that's not there either right now. So maybe it's just the cold. Maybe could it be that the mayor's program is working? Could it be? I want it to work, but I don't think so yet.
What we know is that the current Denver mayor, he's recently elected and sworn in, Mike Johnson, who comes on the show on a regular basis, and we always talk about the homelessness thing. There be money that is going to be spent on this thing. They're ginning it up right now. And there's an organization out there that's done a study on how we've tried to tackle the homelessness thing. It's a group you've heard of before. In fact, our special guest on here right now on the VIP line, you have heard before. It's Kelly Caufield from Common Sense Institute. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Of course. Hi, George. Thank you.
Sure. You guys continue to do great work. And I think I have to do the full disclosure thing. In full disclosure, I am a Common Sense Institute fellow, but on the crime stuff, like I'm not smart enough to work this kind of stuff, just the crime stuff with Mitch Morrissey. But you guys have put out a report that was reported not only in the Gazette, but it was an eye-opening number. Talk to us about what the goal of the study regarding homelessness was and what conclusions you guys came to.
Thanks so much, George. We don't want to be one and done around here. This is our third report on the Denver metro region's homelessness crisis. And we want to make sure we're following the issue and updating the public on the extent of how many people it's impacting and how much it's costing our city. This report is showing that the metro Denver region has spent nearly $2 billion. We're at $1.9 billion in spending. And that is between 2021 and 2023. And at the same time, we continue to see drastic increases in the population, a 60% increase dating back from 2016.
That's crazy.
And you know what, George? It's more far-reaching and far impacting of a problem than I think first realized. And I'm happy to walk, your viewers through a few examples. I think as a mom, one of the most startling statistics for me has been this increase in homeless families, homeless children. In 2023, our report showing nearly 1,400 unhoused persons, homeless people in Denver, were under the age of 18.
Oh,
that's
boy.
roughly one every 7.
Yeah. And you've got here in this study that's a 73% increase over just the 2022 total. That's insane. Why is that?
It's a good question, George, and I think that it's because of a variety of factors, and the report goes into different aspects of how homelessness is impacting our community. I just think it's happening at a greater extent, and the metro region it's a growing area. Our homeless population has increased by 60%, and with that comes a lot of families. And they're not necessarily, George, you're not seeing, or at least I'm not seeing, kids on the side of the street. So I think when we're looking at shelters, it does seem that they must be receiving that prioritization and that, I think, most important care that the city can provide.
I feel like an idiot here, but one of the things in the report it says is HMIS participation rates for emergency shelters have climbed rapidly. What is HMIS?
So this is a homeless management information system.
Okay.
As you can see, in our report, we talk a lot about the importance of greater transparency and greater dashboards. So there is some data available about about the homeless. You know, we have our hit counts, our point in time counts, where we, as a metro region, are trying to better understand how many people are experiencing homelessness. But as you'll see in our report, one of our recommendations is there's some cities that have got this right, George. And I know in our last report last year, we elevated some models in Texas, but we continue to look at cities like San Antonio, Indianapolis, Miami. They have dashboards that are not just showing the number of people who are homeless, but also looking at outcomes, looking at how many days are people homeless? What does the exit look like from the homeless system? How many are returning? And just tracking more outcomes so that the cities are better situated to solve this crisis.
Now, there are going to be those out there who say, well, I know why we have this incredible increase between 2022 and 2023. It's the refugee/migration issues that we have. Did you guys have the ability to get data that helped reveal whether that's accurate or not?
So we did a separate report on that issue, George, and we just issued it last week, and it's on our website, Common Sense Institute, co.org, on the homepage. So I would encourage folks to check that out. And I'm trying to remember our numbers correctly. I think it was about 18 to 20,000 migrants have so far come through the Denver metro region since last December, when Mayor Hancock issued a state of emergency. And there is a separate dashboard, a separate infusion of dollars there, George, that we did not include in our 1.9 billion, but Common Sense Institute economists have estimated that's an additional 40 million by the end of this year to help our migrants. And we know a large majority of them are in shelters for at least one night. I think it's 18,000.
You're right.
Of that 20.
What a great memory, Kelly. 18,519 have spent at least one day in official shelters, and each stayed for an average of just over 18 days. So that, I don't know what the correlation is there. That's got to have an impact a bit on these numbers.
I think it will if the migrant challenge continues, and we think it's just the beginning. It's not going to get better. It's going to get worse. We have more and more individuals coming. They're in buses from Texas. This city is seen as a welcoming city, and I think those numbers will increase. But back to the homelessness report, George, we were able to, do our best disaggregated amount of what is the spending per homeless person here in the Denver metro region. That's somewhere between $30,000 and $60,000 per person.
Oh my, what?
I know, definitely more than we spend per pupil for a Denver public school student, which I have 2 children, so this always hits close to home.
That's an incredible amount of money. Now, you did this overall total sort of projection over the last, I think it's 2 or 3 years, nearly $2 billion.
That's right, George. And that's looking at federal money, that's looking at state money, that's looking at municipal budgets through 23, I believe. And then also, what have some of our largest nonprofits spent on the homelessness challenges? I believe we aggregated about 58 of our largest nonprofits here in the Denver metro region, because they are sharing significant resources towards this problem too. So we value transparency. We try to focus on the facts at Common Sense Institute and aggregate this full picture of spending for the public to understand. And that's how we get that big number. Some studies are probably just looking at only federal, only state, only the city of Denver, but this is a full aggregation.
And this is the source of that number, $30,000 to $60,000 per person?
That's right, approximately between 30 and 60,000 per person is our best estimate of how much we're spending per homeless person in the Denver.
CSI has been a great advocate for the data, and it always prescribes in its reports at the end some measure of increased transparency, and I think that's needed everywhere. Do you have other ideas or suggestions on how we might better use that $30,000 to $60,000 for a problem that seems worse today demonstrably worse today than it was a year ago?
So I would urge, the city of Denver, they have a good dashboard for the 1,000 Tiny Homes Initiative. And we would say build on that. There's also a great dashboard for the migrant situation, George. I mean, you can really clearly see how many migrants are in the Denver metro region. It's really well done. Let's build off of that success. But let's look at some of these outcome-based metrics, because how can we solve a problem if we don't understand where our money's going, or what does a successful homeless exit actually look like? And it's probably not just housing, George. Like when we looked at the mortality, we looked at death records, George. This was a sad report, and we found that about 230 homeless individuals died on Denver streets in 2022. Over half were from overdose. So it cannot just be based on the data. This is not my opinion, George, but based on that mortality data, it can't just be about housing. That wouldn't be fair. It wouldn't be humane. It has to be multifaceted, and it has to have a role for substance abuse, mental health, these larger wraparound supports. And I do think cities like San Antonio, Indianapolis, and Miami, they have these fuller data dashboards and reporting that truly helps you understand how are we using the resources, how many days were they homeless, what was the exit from the homeless system, and did they return or not? So we can get a fuller picture of the homeless person's experience so that we can target those services that they actually need.
It sounds like, too, looking at these numbers, it's incredible. Not just the 227 homeless people who died during 2022, but that's a 67% increase from just a few years before in 2018. I mean, that is remarkable, especially when you consider the fact that, and you've got this in the report as well, that in 2021, programs, service expenditures, all that stuff for homeless was about $465 million. That is a hard to swallow number. But then in 2023, it jumps to $749 million. OMG.
That's right. I mean, homelessness has a very high cost, particularly when you look at, the deaths by drug overdose and violence. 1 in every 21 of Denver's unhoused persons, homeless people, died in 2022. 1 out of 21. It has to be a top priority. We, applaud the mayor for his focus on this issue, and we have to keep at it. And we have to, I think, be humble enough to look at other cities that might be doing something a little bit different that we can learn from.
Is there a best city in Colorado in terms of tackling this? And not all cities have the same issue to the same extent. I presume that Denver has it worse than anyone else, but the Springs can't be at zero either. Who's doing it right here in the border and within the borders?
Some of Common Sense earlier this year, we did a series of municipal reports, and we just issued one on Aurora. We did Colorado Springs earlier this year, ahead of all these municipal races. And, you do look at, it's not a perfect picture anywhere, George, but Aurora and Colorado Springs have seen some decreases recently. So that is something that we are watching. I'm looking at our report here. Between 22 and 23, Aurora's homeless population declined by 7%.
Oh, that's good.
Colorado Springs saw a 10% decline between 2019 and 2022. I do believe in Aurora, Mayor Kaufman and the city council, they've made this a top priority. And I think they are, experimenting more with these campuses that have this wraparound approach of substance abuse, mental health, and housing. And that's something that we want to learn from. And I know the Denver City Council and other Denver leaders have traveled, to Texas, where I think a lot of those models were really inspired from. So the Springs and Aurora, they're seeing some decline. So that's encouraging.
In terms of the future, and I know that CSI is constantly looking at, hey, what's that next thing to analyze? How do we continue this conversation and advance it for policymakers? What's the next thing you guys are eyeballing right now regarding this whole homelessness issue?
I'm so happy you asked. When we looked at this report, something that really jumped out at me, George, was how much Denver Health is spending on homelessness. $254 million.
Oof.
And that's not just uncompensated care. That's everything. That's the shelter they had to build. That's the ambulatory services to help the person who's having a huge health crisis on the side of the street. That's from, people freezing to death, like $254 million in 1 year.
What?
And their resources from the city have stayed pretty stagnant over that same period of time, but they're seeing these huge increases. I believe it was a 30% increase, 34 increase over the last few years in spending on homelessness. And again, that's all of the services and care that this population needs. And it's not just Denver Health. A lot of our metro region hospitals are paying for this cost, and that cost is being trickled elsewhere. And I'm really concerned by that. I think it's a study that CSI should tackle as a deep dive on the healthcare impact of our homelessness crisis in Denver Metro.
We're talking with Kelly Caufield, Executive Director of CSI, Common Sense Institute, Colorado. Let's just step back then and take a broader view of what CSI is doing. What are some of, I love the work that you do. Tell me what other areas you guys are looking at. It doesn't have to be focused on homelessness, but what are the other things you're excited about that are in the hopper right now?
So some other things that we're focused on for this year, each year we do our Free Enterprise Summit. That's in December. Hope people will come December 12th. And
I'll be there. I'll be there.
Oh, good. Excellent. The Free Enterprise Competitiveness Index will be released, where we show how is our competitiveness in Colorado compared to the other 50 states and District of Columbia over the last 15 years across all areas of interest: energy, infrastructure, education, healthcare. So we hope folks will tune into that and see what we're up to. We're also doing a healthcare study with the wonderful Dr. Reggie Washington, Common Sense's first ever healthcare and wellness fellow. That report will be out soon, where he'll be showing the economic benefit of the healthcare sector to the state of Colorado. As I just mentioned, Denver Health, we've got a tremendous number of people employed by that sector, and it deserves, I think, more priority and attention. We'll also be doing a foster care study. George, I'd love to come and have our child welfare fellow. We have a Mortgage child welfare fellow, John Farnham, phenomenal, one of the top child welfare experts in the state. He is focusing on what would be the economic benefits if we prioritized foster care youth more and ensured more graduated from high school, more graduated from college. What would be the economic benefit if more of them could achieve economic prosperity? So we're really proud of the work. We've been busy, George. We're doing about one report a week here. I think we're going to be up to 60, 65 by the end of the year.
Wow.
And we're keeping things busy, focused on transparency and the facts.
Crushing those economists that work for you guys, and you have a bunch. Now, listen, presuming that your top two favorite fellows are, of course, Mitch and me, who's third? No, I'm kidding. I'm not gonna make you answer that. Kelly, it's great working with you. Thanks for putting these reports out. Nobody else is doing this work, and maybe at a different time in a different place, this is the kind of work that journalists could really deep dive in, but they can't. It really takes an organization like Common Sense Institute to put people in place, especially the economists, to do sort of the disimpassioned work of just looking at the numbers and seeing the story that it tells. 2 billion is crazy. But if people want to get this report, and there's a synopsis too. You don't have to read the whole report, although it's awesome. You can go to commonsenseinstituteco.org, commonsenseinstitute.org. Kelly, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, George.
Take care. Hey, listen, any thoughts on that? We've got texts coming in here. People are like, here's a couple texts. Why are they spending that much? Great question. Great question. Why are they spending that much? There's also stuff going on in the report that I think speaks to their other report we referenced about the migrant crisis and what's going on here. When you have tens of thousands of people being introduced to the city who are spending, and I can't remember the exact number, it was some great percentage, an average of 18 days in these official shelters, that's got to have an impact as well. Listen, we're going to get some your thoughts on this thing at 303-696-1971. What are you hearing there? Also the text, but I got to tell you this, we're going to cut away for that last segment of the 9 o'clock hour. We had great feedback and great success with Friday's show, where we cut away to do the Mark Crowley inspired Fanta Halloween mystery black liquid drink. I'm still trying to find that. Mark, I don't know where you bought it, but I couldn't find it this weekend for the kiddos. But Mark is also our in-house, baker, and he has produced something that we're going to try on air today at the end of the 9 o'clock hour. Before we cut away, I got to tell you about Gay Ribble and the Empower Home team. Gay's the kind of person that makes families and makes homes. Her passion outside of real estate is adoption. She's the product of it. I've got that in my immediate family. I'm a big supporter, but she's taken that support and turned it into something where she's made a difference for adoption across the state of Colorado. But she also makes families and helps house them through getting you out of the home you're in and putting you in the house that you need. And she does it at a level that no other realtor can, whether it's volume, quality of service, the getting more money for you than other realtors on average, selling your house faster on average than others. This is a complicated, stressful time, maybe more so than any I can imagine in my adult life for buying a home. Take some of that stress out of it. Reach out to Gay Ribble at 833-301-SOLD, 833-301-SOLD. You can also check her out at sellwithcertaintycolorado.com, sellwithcertaintycolorado.com. That's 4 words all strung together to make one, sellwithcertaintycolorado.com. When we come back, you, me, the text, George Brauchler, 710 KNUS. George Brauchler back with you here, 710 KNUS. Only a couple segments left to go. My thanks to Kelly Caufield, Executive Director of the Common Sense Institute. You can find all of their great work at commonsenseinstitute.co.org. Fascinating study in terms of the amount that we're spending. If you are looking for some reason to have hope that the people that spend our money at the federal, state, or even nonprofit level know what the hell they're doing, don't look in that report because it will scare the bejesus out of you. Almost $2 billion for a product that is, I guess, an outcome, not a product, an outcome that is getting worse and worse and worse. I mean, did you hear those numbers? The increase in the number of deaths since 2018, 67% increase in the, and now it's unhoused instead of homeless. And I'm not really sure what the distinction is, other than unhoused sounds like somebody did it to them. Do you know what I mean? Like that, like we're blaming somebody, not them. Well, I don't know whose fault it is, but they're homeless. They don't have a home. 67% increase. And if you look at the same time, the explosion in the amount of money that we're spending just between 2021 and 2023 to go from 400 something million to 700 something $million. Government sucks at solving problems. This is one of them. Government's not great or efficient at a lot of things, but OMG, how much money have we wasted on this? In fact, got texters that have come on and said that this is its own industry now. This is why are they spending that much? Homelessness is now a business. If they fix the problem, all those people earning six figures would be out of a job. Name a government agency that solved a problem and went away. No, can't do it. Also goes for NGOs like Colorado Coalition for the Homeless. If I remember correctly, they have hundreds of employees. The CEO makes several $100,000s. What a waste. What a joke. I mean, they cannot figure this thing out using whatever traditional means they have. And again, just based on the limited reading and study that I've done, and that includes a book I recommend to you called San Francisco. It's on Audible. If you want to listen to it, that's how I did it. And by the way, if you're going to listen to a book on Audible, put it at 1.5 speed. You will get done with the book so much more quickly and you don't miss a thing. In fact, I've got friends that have gone as high as like 2. I can't do it. That's just too fast, but your brain adjusts to the speed. Anyway, San Francisco was a big one. Some links to some other stuff here. Some more discussion about, apparently they're live streaming the court case that Dave Williams talked to us about in the last hour, in the 8 o'clock hour, where Jenna Griswold and a bunch of other self-proclaimed Republicans, actually probably at one point registered Republicans, are seeking to keep Donald Trump off the ballot because we shouldn't be allowed to consider him as an option. I couldn't disagree more. But there's apparently, they're live streaming that. And Joan says it's at americavoice.news, americavoice.news. And you can check it out. It sounds like Scott Gessler just finished some opening statements about this particular thing, but you can check it out there. I love the callers. We honor them. 303-696-1971. Jacqueline, you are back on 710. What do you think, Jacqueline?
Well, I wanted to tell you about an article I read the other day. It was on Rumble, and then I seen it on Gateway Punt. The ROW, the Row Hotel, which is a beautiful old hotel in New York. They get $400 a night. It houses about 4,500 guests. They have now over 5,000 illegals living there. They have totally destroyed the hotel. The old Roosevelt Hotel, which is a gorgeous old hotel, they got $300 a night there. I mean, the average person got that. They are spending $450 to $500 a day on every one of these illegals. They're getting free food stamp cards. They're getting transit cards. They've totally destroyed those hotels. They've tore up the plumbing, the electrical. There's drugs, alcohol, fentanyl like crazy. There's child abuse, rapes, stabbings, and murders. And the New York mayor is offering to any one of these people, these families, whatever they are, most of them are young men between the ages of 18 and 25. They're offering them transportation to any one of these sanctuary states, sanctuary cities. So Denver's going to be getting a whole bunch of them. They're sending them to Denver, wherever they want to go, Los Angeles, Chicago. I'm telling you, you reap what you sow, and it's going to get worse. I don't know how many illegals the state of Colorado is paying for, but giving more money the money ought to go to build a wall, if that's where the money should have went, instead of all of this, because they're getting what they asked for.
Yeah, I don't know how many we end up getting through that process. Billy had said he'd heard it differently on this, but it's interesting to me that all of these other liberals out there, these progressives who had just been so eager to call out, I guess, the racism of a Texas or a Florida or any other border state for complaining about the impact of the millions of immigrants that have flowed over the border, both under refugee status and illegally, are now pulling their hair out. And I say that sort of tongue in cheek because Eric Adams is bald, but pulling their hair out at the idea that they have 10,000, 20,000, 100,000. And it's like, welcome to the party, pal. I wish I had that Bruce Willis clip from Die Hard. Welcome to the party, pal. And they're going nuts trying to figure out a way to end this because it's so unfair. You can't provide services to this kind of unmitigated flow. Colorado can't take on anymore. If you're right, Jacqueline, I don't know what we do.
Well, they estimate that there is over, in the last 2 years, 10 million. That's just a conservative number, 10 million that have come across the border. My son lives in Texas, north of Dallas-Fort Worth, and he told me, he said, Mom, they were coming through the field out here, and they were so well armed, they looked like militia.
Oh, what?
And I said, how many? Yes, north, coming through the field. Now, I've had them in the park across from my house here, George, and I'll tell you something, they don't last very long. The sheriff's department shows up and they're gone. They're taking them back across to the state line, and they're going back to Sterling, Greeley, Fort Collins. But these sanctuary states have asked for what they got. And when it comes to when Polis realizes what comes across the border today is in his own backyard tomorrow, I mean, you know, if I listened to that, the New York mayor, if that wasn't the most asinine thing that he would say, that this is all the Texas law enforcement and our Congress, the Congress and governors and senators in Texas, it's all their fault. Now, you know, I think that's just, it's an oxymoron statement, but you're dealing with morons when you deal with the Democrat Party and the left.
Well, I do think it's telling, though, and I think he's being completely candid, Jacqueline, when he says, hey, the number of immigrants that we have seen come into New York City is going to destroy New York City and its culture and their ability to respond to it. I think he's being completely candid, and he's right. But it's like, yeah, well, you guys did this. You made this possible.
Well, he wanted some. He wanted a few, but he didn't want them all. Where did he think they were going to go? Where did California? Where did Newsom? Where does Biden think they're all going to go? Where does Kamala Harris think they're all going to go? They're going to go everywhere in the United States because they cannot. These cities, Denver can't take anymore. Neither can Colorado Springs. We don't want them here in Nebraska. They don't want them in these red states.
Wait a minute. Did you say Nebraska? That seems like a solution. You guys could
now.
Don't you think? I mean, the big red, go big red, maybe go big red is I don't know how you say it in Spanish, but
I don't know, but I'm a CU Buff fan, so there you go.
Oh, there you go.
So I tell you, you're such a good person. I'm telling you, Nebraska won't tolerate it. If we can get away with it, we won't. And it's coming our way, but I'm telling you, we're fighting it. We're not going to put up with it. So Denver's going to get a lot more because a lot of them asked to go to Colorado. They want to go to Denver. A lot of them want to go to Los Angeles. My God, I'm telling you.
I think the unwritten part of this story too, though, is what are the impacts to the surrounding communities on all of these really unfortunate, unsuccessful garbage policies that these progressive cities adopt. We talk about Chicago a ton. I'd love to know what the suburbs are like. Like, for instance, Denver makes decisions about we're just not going to we're not going to treat seriously any property crimes. And so those criminals stay out on the streets and then they go into Arapahoe County or Douglas or Jeffco or Adams. There needs to be a study done based on, I think, like the zip code or home of record of the people being housed for any period of time inside these county jails outside of Denver to determine what is the impact of Denver's crappy policy decisions on the rest of the metro area. I think probably outside of New York is the same thing. Outside of Chicago is the same thing. And the immigration issue is part of that.
Well, they put these people in Manhattan. They're putting them now into Long Island. They're going to go all the way around. They cannot stay where they're being put. They haven't. And they've moved across the country. They've moved out of Denver. They've moved up here. We're seeing some of that. But the problem is they won't stay where they're put. They're not going to. And there's not enough places to house these people. It goes right back to what's going on in the Oval Office. I mean, when you vote that way, you get what you get. Colorado is getting what they voted for. And when it trickles into their backyard and affects their family and they're robbed and they're raped and everything else, well, they'll wait too long. They're waiting too long now. I think if we don't change things, we're going to have a hell of a country. We're not going to have a country that we even grew up in.
Well, I'm not sure that we do anymore anyway. Jacqueline, as always, thanks for the great call from Nebraska. Go Buffs. Listen, we're going to cut away for a break. When we come back, special segment involving our own in-house baker. His name is Mark Crowley. He wants to put something in my mouth. I hope it's delicious. Until that time, though, let me tell you about Dan Caplis. Dan Caplis is a friend of the show. Guy used to be on the air with us. But all the time I've known Dan, he has been a top shelf fighter for victims in civil court. This is a guy that knows what cases should go to trial, knows how to prepare them for trial, and then knows how to go and convince a jury to do the right thing on your behalf. If you're looking for a David who is the Goliath, that's Dan Caplis, the Dan Caplis law firm. They're showing up with the slings and the smooth stones, but they're also as bigger than the Goliaths in terms of courtroom experience and expertise. He and Bobber have been doing this forever. If you've got a righteous case, if somebody's hurt you, negligence, recklessness, maybe even in some cases intentional conduct, doesn't matter how big, by the way, giant corporation, just some person don't care. They can take up your cause and help you get into the end zone on this thing. You just got to give them a call, 303-770-5551, 303-770-5551, or check them out at Dan Caplis, C-A-P-L-I-S, DanCaplisLaw.com. When we come back, you, me, Mark, maybe even Billy, George Brauchler, 710 KNUS. This boy's back in town and in the saddle. George Brauchler, 710 KNUS, final segment of the show. Going to get to something super sweet in just a moment. Hey, listen, if you've got pain in your knees, your back, your hips, wherever it is, do not let the doctors tell you your only option is to go under the knife. You do have another option, and that option is to give a look-see to our friends at QC Kinetix. You can check them out online. You can call them too. I'll give you that number, but here's why. They do the regenerative medicine thing. They've been doing it across the country, border to border, coast to coast, at a huge, huge level. And their consultation is free, man. When you call them up on the phone, and that's how I do it. Start at the website, qckinetix.com, qckinetix.com. Check out the information. I would never rely just upon a website, and you shouldn't either. Pick up the phone and call them at 303-900-8986, 303-900-8986, and ask them, how do you use me to fix me? Why is it better that I go in? This is going to sound a little rhetorical. Why is it better that I go in for an outpatient treatment with just a needle instead of having to go under the knife and suffer through the risk of infection and all the long-term rehabilitation and all that other stuff? Check them out at qckinetix.com. Now, listen, in the studio right now, we have the aforementioned Mark Crowley. He's not just all things IT, former Popo. He's also our resident baker. And Mark, are you going to even talk in the microphone? Do you have a microphone?
I have one right here.
Okay, good. Mark, first off, you on a regular basis produce products that are both delicious and a signal to others that you hate thin people.
I hate thin people.
Hate thin people. Like you discriminate
Don't want to be
against
around
them.
thin people.
Well, and you're doing a good job of
So I
keeping it
stuff
from
their
being-
faces.
Tell us about one quickly. How did you get into the whole baking thing? How do you go
You know,
from planning evidence to baking cakes?
I've always been something. I've just been a fan of it, you know. And 3 or 4 years ago, I discovered the Great British Baking Show, and a lot of these things that I try, and this, the one that you see that we're going to talk about right now, this is the 4th time I've baked this particular cake.
What happened to the first 3?
They did not turn out very well because there's a lot of science that goes into baking. If you don't do it just exactly right, especially at 5,000 feet, things don't always work right.
There is a current show on Apple Plus with Brie Larson called something chemistry something. It's about the same thing, the science in the baking and all this other stuff. When the 3 fail, one, describe what failure looks/tastes like and who eats it.
Well, they taste okay. They all taste the same pretty much.
Oh, okay. Well,
but they're either flat or sunk in.
So it's the aesthetics.
Yeah, mostly the way they look.
Do you still eat them when they're failures?
Oh yeah.
Does the dog eat them when there's failures?
She can for example, I had an entire chocolate cake that I carried in this basket or this carrier, and the bottom fell out as I was walking out the door.
No.
So she had a lot of chocolate cake that morning.
And dogs love chocolate. I think it kills them.
Exactly right.
So tell us about this thing right here. I'm doing my best. You're going to hold it up to the camera.
I'll hold up this if we can go to that camera right there.
If you're on Rumble or YouTube, you can see it.
This is what is called a princess cake. And there's actually 7 layers. There's cake, then there's strawberry filling, then there's custard, then there's cake, then there's custard.
Good Lord.
And then there's a dome of stabilized whipping cream, and then a 6th layer of cake, and then covered in marzipan with a little marzipan rose on top.
Now, what's the difference between marzipan and fondant?
I really don't know. They kind of function exactly the same.
In honor of his last week, and for obvious reasons, Mark has named this princess cake Stefan. And thank you for doing that.
Right.
Talk to us about how long.
Are we on like week 87 of the farewell tour?
A lot of folks don't know this. He has been farewelling 710 since he joined them 6 years ago.
Exactly.
Since he joined, he's been trying to leave. How long does it take to make this?
I made the cake on Saturday, the actual cake itself, and then I put it together yesterday. It took about 4 hours altogether. Because like with the whipping cream, that little dome, you have to put gelatin in it. It has to set, and so it won't blob out. You know, it has to become really stiff.
Now we're about to bite into this thing. What are the flavors we should expect as we jump into this?
You'll get just a vanilla custard.
Where do you cut it? Look,
And
it's too
strawberry.
big to do with one forkful. Should I start at the top, or what would be the bottom?
Just
I
stop
would
being a
do the
wuss.
bottom.
Attack
If you
it.
want the most flavor, you
God,
can start at the
really-
bottom.
I'm starting at the bottom.
Yeah.
I'm starting at the bottom,
Yeah,
folks.
start
This
at
is
the
if you
bottom.
haven't seen this on the
No.
video, it's happening right now.
This is good. Now, marzipan and fondant, the differences are texture and taste. Fondant
Oh, that's
is
pretty good,
sweeter, marzipan is sweeter. Fondant is more plain, but fondant holds color better than marzipan does.
Makes
Marzipan is, I believe, based with a nut. I don't know which one it is, but it's
Almonds.
Thank you.
the
Yeah,
other
there we
one is
go. And the
nuts.
other one is sugar. Yeah, based.
Well,
This
for
is-
this
wow.
particular, this is delicious, Mark.
Thank you.
And
Good
screw
Lord.
you, by the way, for making me eat
Wow.
cake in the morning.
No, breakfast cake is wonderful. We love
The
breakfast cake.
green,
Oh.
green topping. Did you pick that color? Like I wanted it
It's
to
part
be.
of the recipe. I mean, you see green and pink and red, and it just depends on the occasion, really. What you want.
Yeah, and you've got to do
I
something that's
just
in the
use
yellowish
green 'cause that's
family.
what the recipe
Yeah,
picture is.
marzipan will
So just-
hold yellows.
It kind of looks like it's skin color when it comes out of the box, and you just add food coloring, and
Yeah.
there you go.
Why wouldn't you leave it skin color? That seems.
Well, it just looks a little weird.
Yeah.
It looks like skin.
Yeah.
Mark, is it true that you will not bake one of these that's
Mm.
pink on the inside and blue on the
That's
outside?
true. I will not do that
Because of the messaging. I think it's
Well,
really just technically very difficult. to
Yeah,
pull
yeah.
off.
I guess I would use blueberry filling or something like that.
This is so good.
This is so good.
And actually, the
man.
recipe calls for raspberry filling,
Oh.
but I didn't have any raspberry yesterday.
So what
I-
is this? The blood?
Strawberry.
Oh,
That's
strawberry.
strawberry.
Yeah.
Sugar free, by the way.
Sugar. So wait a minute. Have you done an assessment of the calories? Like if you were going to sell this?
Will you
and
shut up?
should.
Stop this.
I'm just
No,
interested to
you-
know.
You're ruining our
have not,
happiness.
but it has.
I'm still eating it.
You're ruining
a
your
lot.
happiness.
Because it's real. It's
The
the
hell's a
cake
lot, man?
batter uses whole milk. The whipping
Oh,
cream is
so good.
heavy cream, and there's about between the
Man.
custard and the
Oh.
cake, there's probably about 5 cups of
It's
sugar.
so
in there.
good. It's so good. What I love is the whipping
Really
cream
good.
that you have set up on top of the layers of cake that creates that dome, and then another
Yeah,
cake layer on top of that. That is technique that is difficult to master. This
Is
is
it?
absolutely wonderful.
Because
Yeah.
Billy does some stuff too, but not
Yeah.
like
Yeah,
this.
it's a
Yeah.
it's a technique called
is tough.
torting the cake.
Yeah.
That's actually
That is tough.
2 sponges. You put 2 pans, and then
Yeah.
you actually cut them in half.
Torting?
Yeah, torting.
Yeah.
So
Which
you
is
just
different
keep
than torting.
slicing it, and
Yeah.
and so there's those layers are
It's really good.
I really
actually the
like
same,
this.
Folks,
I appreciate
part of the
marzipan.
same pan.
Marzipan's much better than
at
fondant
the
for me.
at the
This is
risk
great.
of blowing
so good.
through the current stock of jeans that I
Oh.
have here, I'd be willing to make
So
this
good.
a regular portion of the show
Oh, we have to.
daily.
Absolutely.
Mark, you just
And
need
I'll
to
bring
go
in my
with-
failures too. I
Daily.
mean, I'm happy to bring in the things that don't work just to.
The thing that is
say
We
that-
already got the failures on radio. Why not
Oh,
bring in
yeah.
the food that?
yeah,
kind of thematic.
That's true. Yes.
It's again the sponge in the
This
cake
is
is difficult, and it is just right. It's not too moist. It's not dry. It doesn't crumble. It holds shape. It has just a light bit of the
You're
lemony
describing me.
inside of it. This is fantastic, and I actually like the strawberry better than the raspberry because raspberry is
Me
a
too.
very
I
strong berry.
definitely like
Yeah, the strawberry is very like that. Mark, you are the best, man. Thank you for
No, and
breakfast
this
cake.
price range is good. I hope you brought enough for everyone else
I
because
did.
we're going to eat
I
the
think
rest
there's
of it.
enough for the whole staff.
The
here
silver
today.
lining to being on the morning show instead of the afternoon is it right here. Hey, look, stick around. Stefan's only got a couple months left to farewell. We'll be back tomorrow. George Brauchler, 710 KNUS.